City Council meeting. This is Tuesday, August 2nd, 2016. It is 6:30 p.m. If I could remind everyone to silence their cell phones, and if anyone still owns a pager, silence that as well. Madam Clerk, could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Mosby,
Present.
Councilmember Starbuck,
Present.
Councilmember Holmdahl,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Victor Vega,
Here.
Mayor Bob Lingle.
Here. If you'd please rise and join Mr. Ian Baer. He's the president of the North Valley Unitarian Universalist Community. He's going to lead us in an invocation.
Guiding light, we are gathered this evening to deliberate over matters which concern us. We know not yet the outcomes, nor how our individual or collective futures will be affected. Yet we do this work, this intellectual work, this emotional work, this hard work, this holy work, because we must. Be you known as Yahweh or Allah, that still small voice of reason, or God. We ask for your presence here with us as we try, as ever, to steer well and rightly this place which we love, this city we call home. So may it be.
Okay, thank you very much. Please remain standing and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. We're going to start off this evening with a presentation from the Lompoc Economic Development Committee to present a report and update on current and upcoming events and achievements.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, so this is for the period January through August 2016, and I'm Maria Hall, I'm the EDC chair. All right, and I'll read our 2016 vision statement. To develop a strong positive image which attracts and retains business and residents and visitors that achieves economic vitality in the Lompoc Valley. This is the list of our members. We have the executive committee, the committee members at large, and the associate members. And we have one open position in the associate members. All right, membership. This year the council decreased membership from 23 to 22. So we have 10 regular at-large positions, 5 regular positions with membership tied directly to council members. And those are Sue Schuyler, Shelley Pasqua, Mary Day, Richard Drago, and Julie Menicucci. And 7 associate, which includes representatives from the Chamber of Commerce and Explore Lompoc. We currently have 1 open associate positions, and I believe we're going to vote on that tonight, or you are. We're striving for greater ethnic and industry diversity. The committee defines several areas to focus our recruitment. Lompoc Hospital District, which we did fill. Allen Hancock College, applications submitted. That's the one for tonight. Lompoc Unified School District, the position was filled with Henry Galena. The Shumash Casino and or Shumash tribal member, we're encouraging applicants. And the Federal Correctional Complex, we are also encouraging applicants for that one. So this year we have updated the EDC's general functions, terms, and membership, and that was in April. And we extended 5 members' terms to expire in 2020 so that they have the opportunity to fulfill a complete 4-year term. So volunteer hours outside of our regular and executive meetings, we had approximately 300 hours. That was from all our members. Some of the additional meetings were the Airport Commission and the Festival Subcommittee, which is working on a balloon festival. Events attended, I won't read them all, but you can see them all there. And we had a number of topics that these meetings discussed and met about. All right, so back in 2015, we had a strategic planning workshop last year, and we came up with our top 5 priorities for 2015. So I'll be going through each one and then the progress that we've made on it. So the first one was the fiber feasibility study goals. So that was to research business and community investment, engage partners and community and benefit discussions, and review successful models for best practices. So we're still making progress on that. Several of our EDC members are on the Tri-County Broadband Initiative. And Northern Santa Barbara County and Lompoc have been identified as priority project areas. So we're also been working directly with fiber providers to host informational sessions. We have that coming up this month. And also discussing opportunities with providers about bringing fiber to business and new residential developments. Okay, number 2 on our top 5 priorities was the RFQ, and that was satisfied. Number 3 is investment vehicle and funding opportunities. So we're currently making progress on that. We're researching potential local investment funds, seeking grants. And also the Community Development Division was awarded a $307,000 grant for additional improvements at Thompson Park. Number 4, added capacity. Who's missing from our discussion? So this was last year, and we had the Lompoc Unified School District, Vandenberg Contractors, the Shumash, the FCC, and Allen Hancock. And also to deliver a Partners in Lompoc Economic Vitality Forum. So we did have that forum on October 28th. Had over 80 community business members there. And also we appointed 10 new members to the EDC in 2016. We now have a member from the Lompoc Valley Medical Center, LUSD, and Vandenberg Air Force Base. And we have received an application for the Allen Hancock position, which just opened up. So we still have 1 associate position open, and we're actively recruiting members for the Shumash, the FCC, and Allen Hancock. All right, number 5, promote and publicize Lompoc. So some of the things that we identified last year was promote business and events in Lompoc through the EDC column in the Lompoc Record. So that runs the 1st and 3rd Sundays of the month. We continued with the quarterly EVA, it's actually monthly, to local businesses in the Lompoc Valley, which we promote through social media and also in the Lompoc Record column. Update promotion package and foster existing business. And also again with the social media on our Facebook, we publicize other events as well as our own. So there was a second Creative Crosswalks installation that was at Walnut and I. We had 13 EVAs awarded, and we gave the overall yearly EVA to Floriano's at the chamber dinner. Oh, and then again, the EVA awards in the Lompoc Record biweekly EDC column. And then also we have a festival subcommittee that's working on site selection and planning logistics for a balloon festival for fall of 2017. So I will hand the mic over to Teresa Gallivan. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Maria.
Mayor, members of council, Teresa Gallivan, Economic Development Director, Assistant City Manager, and this part of the report is our economic indicators that we provide to you. Employment information here, this is unemployment numbers, and we have them here through May. We did recently receive or have some information shared about June, which went up just a little bit. Lompoc, as of May, was at 5.2%. In June, I believe it was 6.1%. Still less than where we were a year ago. kind of running in that range. So that is one area that we continue to need to work on, our unemployment, but it is overall trending down slightly.
Can I ask a question? I think I'd read something that was our lowest point since
2009?
2009. So just wanted to share that.
Actually, it was 1999.
Right.
1990.
I'm sorry, you're right.
Uh-huh.
I knew there was a 9 in there since 1999. Thank you.
Thank you. Sales tax activity, this is sales tax revenue generation, and you can see that that has been trending up the last few years, a little bit at a time, and these are estimated figures for 2015-16. Final figures have not come in. However, we are estimating a little over $4.5 million in sales tax revenue, $163,000 increase estimated at about 3.7%. Being up from last year. Transient occupancy tax, this is hotel stays, and this too has been trending in a positive direction. We have here an estimate for 2015-16, and it is about 3.4% higher than last year. So pleased to see that moving in a upward incrementally. Property tax activity, also we do, this is an estimate, we do estimate this going up. We can expect approximately a 2.3% increase in property tax revenue over last year, about $88,000 estimated. New business license activity, also up about 9%, 33 more business licenses pulled compared to last year. Capital development activity is based on building permit valuations, and we had more than $26 million in building permits pulled, and that is the investment made in our community. It is up approximately 1.5% from the previous year. This one is a lot harder to track. So this is our businesses that have opened and closed or expanded, and there are some areas where the information has not been made available. It's pretty hard to get a hold of businesses that have closed in some cases or get the information from them, but this is, you can see there have been expansion, relocation, remodels account for about 5 of 21 of these businesses listed here. 7 that have closed and 9 that have opened new or reopened. The Albertsons obviously being the big one in this picture here. And there may be some that we try to look back and keep track of this as we go, but if there's something we missed, please let us know so we can just add that to this. This is a really harder thing to track, but we're trying to represent what's been going on in our business community here. The planned business openings that we're excited about, Solving Brewery, they estimate that they will have 28 jobs created because of that project. Hilton Garden Inn estimates 100 to 120 jobs being created, and we're still awaiting information on Chipotle and The Habit. So that is our update for you, and Maria and I are here if you have any questions.
Ms. Gallivan, the one slide where you had the dollars of construction.
Yes.
What was the spikes there in 12 and 13? What was that caused by?
I believe the spikes were either the hospital and one of our housing developments. Is that correct? So was that Briar Creek or La Purisima? La Purisima, probably. Highlands? No? The hospital.
Okay.
Mainly the hospital.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then one of the things that's kind of interesting as well, although the valuations are lower, there actually have been more building permits in some of the last couple of years than in previous years.
Councilmember Mosby.
When are the actual numbers coming in for property tax? Aren't those out there already?
Yeah, we got most of our last settlement from the property tax, and it was pretty close. It was a good number, I thought.
Well, I mean, because we're using an estimate on the chart. If the number's out there,
Yeah, we still may get some small increment, but most of it we've already got. So those are pretty close on the numbers there.
okay, and then likewise with sales tax numbers?
Now, sales tax numbers, we probably won't get the final settlement until about September. That one takes a little bit longer. We get advanced and then we get trued up, but it takes quite a while to get trued up.
Okay, we're off then on the property tax numbers then according to the budget from last year, right?
Yeah, a little bit less, but not too bad. About 100,000, I think, maybe a little more. But
And sales tax,
we won't know until we get that final settlement.
your estimate up here compared to our budget?
Yeah, we're pretty close to the budget, but we really won't know where it lands until we get the final true up in September.
Right, thank you.
Councilmember Humdahl.
Yeah, one of the questions I have is that we're talking about people coming to town, we're talking about bed tax and different things like that. Does anybody check, see just how many people who go to Hancock College for training and different things come into town and also go to restaurants, stays in hotels and such? It'd be nice to find that out because they are coming here, they're staying 1, 2, or 3 nights unless they're in here for a week or two. And that's all income that's come in because of Hancock College and their training. And it may be interesting to check with Hancock or somebody where they're coming, how long they're staying, and what the time frames are.
Okay, anything else? Thank you, Ms. Gallivan. Thank you, Teresa. Ms. Hall. Okay, we're going to go on now to the city manager's report. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Police Chief Pat Walsh is going to do a pinning ceremony to a new Lompoc police officer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council, folks in the audience. I always like this evening, like to introduce the police officers to our community. And it's kind of fitting today. It was extremely hectic. Patrol officers worked very hard. We had to call in an entire shift in today to help cover the call. So adding a police officer is refreshing, if not a relief. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Officer Tara Newton. If you can come on up here. So Tara was born and raised in the Central Valley, Fresno area. She's enjoying the weather here the last couple of days. She worked for the Fresno Police Department as a cadet in 2007 and was sponsored through the Academy in 2009. Tara was sworn in as a police officer with Fresno PD in 2010. Tara and her husband Joseph have been married for 14 years and have four children: Nicholas, Callie, Kaya, thank you, and Siler. Tara is excited to be returning to her career and calling as a police officer and looks forward to serving the community of Lompoc. So what we'll do now is we will do a pinning, well, actually a swearing in, and then her husband will pin her, and then we'll try to be quiet when we go out to take pictures. I make no guarantees.
All of them can come up. Everybody? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Everybody.
If you want.
You want to introduce your family?
Well, while the whole gang comes up, this is my husband Joseph, my youngest Siler. I can't see everybody. Kaya, Nicholas, and Callie. And then in the audience also are my mom and my grandma and my good friend Kataro. So they are, I guess not.
Everybody see? Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Tara Newton,
I, Tara Newton,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I will support the laws and policies
that I will support the laws and policies
of the City of Lompoc,
of the City of Lompoc,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties
and responsibilities
of a police officer
of a police officer
of the City of Lompoc
of the City of Lompoc
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability. Thank you.
All right. Okay.
So thank you very much, and if we can have the whole family step out, we'll take photos.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll let them step out and then we'll go to the city manager's report. I thought that cameraman was the press room. What are they doing here?
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, let's get-
Just one quick item I wanted to report. The city has received notice from the Public Utility Commission, as other cities in the Central Valley have, of a impending they're going to run out of prefix numbers for our area code, the 805 area code. They're predicting in June of 2018. So we haven't been informed exactly of how that may or may not impact the city of Lompoc. I discussed this with the other Central Coast city managers, and we're all looking at it with the same amount of interest. I happen to have gone through an area code change in a previous city, and it wasn't fun. It particularly just on things like stationary printing costs for, all citizens, businesses throughout. So we're going to continue to monitor that, and I'm not sure how quickly we're going to have more information, but just wanted to give a heads up.
Thank you. Did the report you got, did you see the map that they put out with the notice?
I did see the map. The map
It showed as Lompoc staying as 805.
Well, it really didn't clearly delineate the difference between this notice and previous notices. The time I went through this before, some 20 years ago, they clearly had a map of the old area code boundaries, and then they clearly defined what the new boundaries were, what was staying the same, and what was changing. They really didn't do that kind of description this time. And they're leaving open, I guess one possibility is an overlay, which I've never heard of before, that they might have within a defined geographic area, multiple area codes. There's a lot of discussion about, well, maybe that's not going to happen and they'll end up chopping somewhere else. So yes, I did see the map. I'm not sure it's as conclusive as we'd like it to be. So we're going to monitor.
Okay. Okay, Councilmember Mosby.
Yeah. Mr. Manager, have you heard any reporting on the water flow coming down the river? I've heard it past the Narrows, but...
Yeah, I happened to do my own visual inspection of that, and it was making as of Sunday morning, it was making its way down, and the report I got today was making it past the Narrows. So it looks like it's making its way to us. Surely, as anticipated, it's kind of a slow process because I'm sure that ground, having lacked water for so long, is just, taking up a lot of the volume as it travels. There's a lot of conveyance losses going on, but should be here momentarily.
And maybe in next week's, or next time's report, you could fill us in, not next week, of course, but the next
Yeah.
one. Fill us in, let know a lot of the people are concerned and want to hear that, and it'd be nice to see it at the bridge, but you can update us with the help of the superintendent from the water plant or something and fill you in, so
Sure, great.
that'd be good. And
Will do.
another thing I want to comment on is I want to thank you for the water meter, or the bills, and you've actually got the meter on there. For those of the people who didn't understand, there were two components of the water bill. One was a meter and one was the unit charge, and I've noticed that that's lined out, and
Yeah, we weren't really sure we were going to pull that off with the old system, but glad it's working out.
yeah, a number of people have said that, hey, thanks, so
Good.
thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. And now we're going to move on to public comment on the consent calendar. You'll have 3 minutes to speak to us to anything on the consent calendar. Seeing no rise, we're going to close public comment. We're going to go to the the consent calendar. The consent calendar consists of items that are considered to be routine, and they'll be passed with one motion by a council member and a second, unless a council member chooses to pull an item. Does any council member choose to pull an item? Councilmember Mosby.
I just had a question, maybe, on the destruction of the obsolete records. It just probably could be answered without polling.
Sure. That's
Basically, how much money will we be saving by deleting these records? Seems like that's one of the motivations. Granted, a lot of it is obsolete, but does anybody? No?
yes.
I think it's going to take a little bit of funds to get the record shredded, but I think once we start getting everything electronic, it'll save money in the long run. I know we have a lot of archives in hard copy, so a lot of work to do.
So we don't, because it was a kind of a statement alluded to the values. I was getting ready to, maybe we could do a cartwheel or something. You're saving a couple $1,000 or I don't know. And I had one question on one of the items in there as well. It was the Specialties in Construction Incorporated Water Treatment Plant. It was on 1318. It was the number on the second page of the list. Is that the file for our contract with the company, or what? Is there a way I can observe that or something?
You're referring to the records list, and you wanted to look at a
Yeah.
particular file?
The records list, I just was wondering what it was. Is it? It says Water Treatment Plant, Specialty Construction Incorporated. I don't.
I guess there's no reason why we couldn't pull it. It's still there.
It's likely the contract file, because it's from my office, so it's likely the contract file.
Is there a way we could pull that one until next time or something like that? Like take a look at it or something?
So if you don't want to if you don't want to include it on the list, we'll just strike it.
That would be my simple suggestion, recommendation or something.
Okay. City Manager, did you have a comment?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay, seeing no other discussion on that, I would entertain a motion. Councilmember Mosby,
I'll make the motion to approve consent with the one modification requested.
and do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Let's vote. That passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on to a staff presentation. No, we're not. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Staff presentation. City of Lompoc Safety Committee presents quarterly awards of Above and Beyond.
Joe Kavanaugh, City of Lompoc Safety Officer, Mayor, Councilman, attendees. It's my pleasure to make an announcement on the fourth quarter Above and Beyond Awards. And for those that aren't familiar with the award, it's a peer award based on doing something above and beyond that has to do with safety, either with their job or with the public. So at this time, let me announce the nominator, Joshua Anthony, and he is asking for an award which was agreed for Luis Hilario, a park ranger. Luis Hilario witnessed a gallon of red paint falling from a passing vehicle and quickly diverted traffic with his hazard lights and vehicle, and then removed the spilled paint before vehicles tracked it through the roadway. There was a nominal $10 gas card that's going to be awarded along with a certificate. Joshua Anthony also nominated Nick Davenport, park maintenance worker trainee. And while performing routine ground maintenance at Centennial Park, Nick observed a man physically assaulting another person. Nick telephoned the police and waited for them to arrive to preserve the peace. Again, he'll have a $10 gift card for gasoline and a certificate. Anonymous nominee nominated Alice Riggs, one of our janitors here at City Hall, and observed her removing a large piece of broken mirror. Alice was observed wrapping the material in heavy paper so that it would not present a danger to collection staff, emptying the trash container, nor landfill staff when it was disposed at the City of Lompoc landfill. And this is something that's really important because she's thinking downstream on how her job. So she was awarded a $25 gift card. Isaac Rodriguez nominated Saul Salazar, Senior Water Meter Maintenance Tech. Saul witnessed and assisted occupants of an automobile accident at the corner of H and Maple Streets. He provided traffic control and waited with the occupants until emergency personnel arrived. He will get a nominal $10 gift card and a certificate. Angela Wynn nominated Brandy Flint, Treasury Utility Billing Supervisor, Lisa Kiesler, Senior Treasury Clerk, Connie Bertrand, Treasury Office Staff Assistant, and herself, Community Development Staff Assistant. A utility customer, while waiting in line to pay her bill, fell and required medical assistance. Brandy Flint and Lisa Kiesler assisted her with the payment of her bill, while Angela Wynn attempted to comfort her. She was very insistent. I was there on scene as well. She really wanted to make sure she got her bill paid. Connie Bertrand also assisted with securing witnesses and medical assistance, and our great fire department came and assisted her, and she had to be taken to the hospital. The next nominators are Bill Coliff and Bob Wetzel from the Water Department. They're nominating John Heater, Senior Water Distribution Operator. Driving to the job site, John witnessed a citizen who had fallen and was bleeding from the face. John stopped and checked the woman to make sure she was not critically injured. After receiving approval to escort the woman, he walked with her to her home about 2 blocks away. He ensured her safety before returning to the job site. And the committee's awarding a $25 gift certificate as well as a certificate to Mr. Heater. And last but not least, Stacy Hayden, our city clerk, nominated Dan Smith, lead facilities maintenance worker. While working at City Hall during the evening, Dan noticed several maintenance tasks, including the need to replace lights that were burned out in the arbor outside of the front doors of City Hall. The lights were replaced a few days later to provide safety and security for the City Hall exterior. Again, there was an award of a $25 gift card for Mr. Smith. And thank you very much, and I'll see you next quarter.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we are now going to move on to oral communication. This is your opportunity to speak to us on any item for up to 3 minutes. If the item is on the calendar, on the agenda, you may want to wait for that item to come up.
I wish it was on the agenda. Lynn Whittemore, City of Lompoc, I thank the mayor and the council for your time. I'm here yet again on an issue that just doesn't affect me. This affects every property owner in this town, this damn 18-foot code enforcement ruling where you have controlled this much property we have and what we can do with it. I have yet to have someone in the city say, hey, we're doing this because of this. What I get is a response like, hey, I'm the dad, and that's what I said, and that's all there is to it. I tried to get an appointment with the city administrator or manager for 6 weeks. I finally got a phone call, thanks to Mr. Vega, and have an appointment set up with a gentleman from the Planning Commission. But he's yet another person that does not have the authority to correct this issue. The people that have the authority is the council, the city manager, and the assistant manager. This is affecting a lot of people, and I think it needs to be resolved soon. So, council members, please hear my plea and see what you can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Mayor, council members, Nicholas Gonzalez, resident of Lompoc. The item is on the agenda, but it's under the consent calendar. I noticed that they were going for the destruction of documents. I reviewed the list, and there's quite a few documents that were from the Planning Commission, tapes. I don't know if that's videotapes, audio tapes, and the like, but it covers quite a bit of the information that I think might be valuable to reflect back on as you're finishing the general plan, since the general plan information is contained within the Planning Commission tapes. So I'd appreciate it if somebody pulled it and discussed it. Is it 1 box, 2 boxes, 100 boxes? And is it possible to keep that around until the general plan is updated? Thank you.
Unfortunately, Mr. Gonzalez, we're already beyond the consent calendar, so, yeah, that's okay.
My name is Ray Leslie. I'm here to talk to you about our police department from the incident that was last year on October 15th, when 2 people come into my business, were told not to go any farther than where they were in the front. They pulled knives out and pushed their way by me. Went into the back room and then took a crowbar. I was busy trying to go to the back door and I heard some noise, turned around and hit me with a crowbar 3 times. But the main reason I'm here is that shouldn't have happened. They were here at the police department prior to this happening to me, and got a thing called Keep the Peace. And they're supposed to be accompanied by police department when this happens. Our police chief says that no, they don't always have to come with it. They told them before they left there was going to be trouble. It's all in there. It's in paper, on paper and writing, so it all is there. They almost killed me. The first 2 hits, he said, I'm going to kill you. The 3rd hit, he said, this one's from the city. He's a city worker. I don't know if you guys are aware of it. I'm sure you are. It was quite big at one time, but the police, all they did was harass me. They arrested me. After I got out of the hospital, they took me down there and sewed me up, cleaned me up, and done all this stuff on me. And the police officers that arrested me forced me into the back of an SUV that I wouldn't fit in. There was electronic equipment on the floor, so they threw me on the next SUV, they had 2, and shoved me in there so I was actually laying down. This is what our great police department is doing to people. It's ridiculous, it's dangerous, and you guys should be being sued right now. But I'm not right this minute. I'm trying to do something else and try and get it so that these people get what's coming to them, and nobody's doing anything. I had a meeting with the police chief. His attitude was, this was just another business deal gone bad. These 2 guys had no marks on them. Another business deal gone bad. Can you feel, realize how I felt? You can tell right now how I felt. You need to do something with this. It's your job. I've talked to everybody with the city attorney and stuff like that, but he was worried about me suing him, so he wouldn't let anybody talk to me. There were a couple people that talked to me within the city that were okay. He advised everybody not to, nasty looks won't get it either, but he advised everybody not to talk to me. That if I wanted to talk to anybody within the police department of their city, I had to have it in writing and hand it in. This is something happened in your city. You should do something about it. And I think now I'm going to do something about it because of how you guys have treated me.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Leslie. Next, please.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, residents. My name is Carl Creel. I'm chairman of the Motorsports Committee, and this evening I want to give a brief update on the project. On July 9th, we completed our 5th annual Great American Car Show, and I want to thank all the sponsors, in particular Albertsons, the main sponsor. We had approximately 110 cars and more than 500 participants and spectators. This turned out to be our most profitable show to date. We netted over $5,000. At the end of the show, the Flower Festival Queen drew the winning ticket for the 57 Chevy Bel Air. The Chevy was donated by Jeff Overeem, longtime motorsports supporter. We earned over $40,000 in raffle tickets for the car. This last Friday, July 29th, my vice chairman and I delivered the signed Amendment 3 to the Memorandum of Understanding to the city. With that MOU amendment, the committee also provided checks for the amounts of all the matching funds that are listed in the June 7th staff report to council. The first check was for $47,628 for the 26% grant match, share of the NEPA work, and the additional staff time. These additional costs resulted from a change in the requirements by the FAA at the beginning of May. That brought the total 26% grant match to the environmental work and staff time to $103,324. The second check was for $2,200 to pay the city for the cost of appraisal on the property to set a lease rate for the future park. The final two checks were for the airport layout plan, which the FAA required in early May. The check for $5,720, along with credit for funds previously spent for the bird study, are the $10,000 down payment for the plan. The last check was for $12,662, which is the first of 5 monthly checks to pay for the airport layout plan. We want to thank all the donors in the committee that have helped us by donating over $210,000 to date to move the project through the entitlement process. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Okay, Mayor, City Council, my name is Sue Copeland, and I wanted to inform you, I think several of you are already aware, but we have a Lompoc economic survey that's been taken. Initially, it was designed to be a Lompoc High School FBLA partnership with business project for 2016-17. Teaching our students how to create, collect, and analyze data pertinent to our community, in addition to working with our business partner of the year, Eva Blaisdell. I'm saddened to say that because it became a controversial hot topic, our students were asked not to participate anymore. So as a citizen, I want to report out on that. So the economic survey, again, was designed to find out about how our citizens and community feels about Lompoc's economy and about the California Space Center. And again, it was student initiated. It was not anything that Eva Blaisdell brought out. We took it to her and said we would like to do this as a project. Initially, what we had hoped to do was to report out to the City Council and other community groups. But again, I would like to ask now as a citizen if I can request a special meeting to present the results. Currently, we have 375 surveys results, and I think it would be pertinent for the City Council and the community to be able to learn about it and have a special meeting. I wanted to say that Eva will be here on Friday. Eva Blaisdell at the Old Town Market. So if any of you have questions about what she's been doing, she's been very active developing the California Space Center throughout California. And we have a launch coming up pretty soon, September 15th. And she plans to invite, she already has special guests that she'll be bringing in to view the launch. And that is a big portion of the California Space Center, and I think that we're missing out as in our community is not taking advantage of the resources that we have here. I had one question about the economic committee's report, and it said your priority number 2 was an RFQ. Was that about the Space Center? Because it just said RFQ. I can't answer that.
Well, you can answer, but I don't think I recall what that was, so just go ahead.
I can go ahead and answer that. Yes, that was the RFQ for the 82 acres next to Allen Hancock College. We did go through the RFQ process. We followed the process, and so therefore it was satisfied on the initiatives as far as going through the process.
Okay, because it just said RFQ. It didn't talk about what RFQ. I didn't know if there was another RFQ out there.
It was referring to that one.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And as far as your report, you may want to get that information to our Economic Development Committee, and maybe they can combine it with their next report to the City Council. I think that'd be the most appropriate thing. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one rise, we're going to close oral communication and go on to item number 7, which is appointments. And this is an appointment, one associate term ending February of 2018 to the Economic Development Committee. We have one applicant, one position. Would someone like to make a nomination? Well, then I will do it. I will nominate Mr. Felix Hernandez. Mr. Felix Hernandez is with Allen Hancock College, and I forget exactly what his position is, but that was one of the openings that we had. We wanted someone from Allen Hancock College, so that fills one of our open positions. So I'd like to nominate Mr. Hernandez, and I would need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, let's vote. Okay, is Mr. Hernandez in the audience tonight? No? Okay. Let's move on to item number 8, which is unfinished business. This is an ordinance number 1624, parentheses 16, summary of action approving ordinance regulating shopping carts.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and colleagues. Patrick Weimler here to talk about the proposed shopping cart ordinance. We had a first reading 2 meetings ago, and after hearing public comments and concerns, you asked that we that we hold over and not bring back for second reading on the last meeting, but rather wait until this meeting to bring that forward to afford us time in the meantime to notify potential affected businesses. While we don't have a comprehensive list, we don't know of one's existence of every business that has or might have carts, we did our best effort to try to identify the potential businesses in town that would be affected. And we identified 46 different businesses that we subsequently notified, provide a written notice of. The second hearing to be heard at this point. There was no other action that you took in during the first reading. So as it stands right now, the draft ordinance is still unaltered, and we're available for your continuation of the discussion at this point.
Okay, Councilmember Homdahl.
Yeah. Patrick, in your studies beforehand, what recommendations come from the cart owners themselves? Was there anything that came forward in the last two weeks or so? Because some letters we had are some real good statements that may work out.
Yeah, well, in the interim, there have been suggestions made here at council by members of the public, including, I believe, some of the owners, and then I believe shared with you as at least one or maybe two correspondence that we got from private citizens of options that are available. Some of those echo some of the options we knew were available. For instance, I think one of the written suggestions was about having a token-driven system. It's certainly up to the individual owners if they're looking to keep carts on site. That's one possibility. There is technology that's available. So, yeah, I mean, we as staff, we haven't, we're aware of the suggestions. We haven't done any further analysis or anything. We're following your lead.
Well, that's why I said they had, with what we received, some today had some good ideas. Others, I had comments from others out there that there is some way. I think everybody's more concerned about the $1,000 fine, but also the property owner of those carts are going to have be involved. We've had some good comments on how to do it, so I'd like to have it where we come before some recommendations how we can put it together, other than just what we have here today. Because I think you've done a real good job on it, but just having a penalty. I think the one where they talk about putting a quarter or a dime or what it is, get the cart out, and then when you get back, put the cart back and get your money back. Then there's one at Ross for Less, I believe. Somebody told me today they have one where the cart won't leave the building, so it stopped. So there is some out there. It'd be nice to have the cart owners come in with a recommendation they would support, then we could modify it too. I think we're doing everything we can, but they're the ones that also have those carts, and we need to, I don't know how that would work. We had a workshop or what?
Sure. Just to recap, we had staff was following what the request was that we had received. As I understood it, multiple council members were receiving complaints about carts that were left abandoned out in the community, and they were hearing loud and clear from some citizens that were dissatisfied with that situation. And in our attempt, as you'll recall from the first reading, we reviewed the policies that are in place in some 31 different communities and put together a draft of an ordinance that we thought would be effective in getting the carts out from being abandoned out in the community. I know one of the discussion points has focused on the $1,000 citation fine issue. Again, our goal and desire is to never have to assess any such fine. That would happen only if we had, someone who, an owner who refused to have a plan in place, refused to enact and take responsibility on helping to retrieve the carts. While we did listen and we have continued to take notes on the inputs that have come from the citizens, again, we receive our instruction from you, so we appreciate the contributions of ideas. Some of them have been good suggestions that are there. We'll look forward to either continue on with the draft that's in hand or to continue on with adjustments based upon how you act and direct. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Starbuck.
Okay, I'm going to make a couple of points here. I guess that this probably happened well over a year ago that a couple of council members had people approach them. There's never been a council request, any type of motion on the dais about that. Once again, we have government and business. Oxymoron. We need to be out of it. There's a state law that pertains to the whole state, the Business and Professions Code. Now, we can sit around and talk about tokens and community service and all that, but we're still involving ourselves. The people that own the carts will police themselves. People that steal the carts will be policed by police. That's what the Business and Profession Code says. I don't know why we're going to go ankle, knee, hip deep on this when there's already a state law. It's very clearly spelled out. We received this email from our code enforcement on, like I said last meeting, April 22nd. I don't get it. We should drop it. We shouldn't do the ordinance. If we're going to enforce it, we direct the chief of police. Let's enforce Business and Professions Code, this section here. The only requirement that this puts on the merchant is to identify his cart. That's the only thing that would be required by the merchant or the businessman, so that when the cart is found or spotted, they can be notified of it. If they do not respond within 3 days, then the cart can be confiscated. I don't know anybody that will not pick up their cart if they were told about it, or the cart retrieval people that could do it, for people that don't go out on their own. Let's not mingle in it.
Councilmember Vega.
I also believe that the business owners in Lompoc here are providing a service, and they're providing the ability for people that are low income and handicapped to take their groceries home. So I think, I tend to think that if these businesses at least had a communication with code enforcement as far as having some sort of cart retrieval process, to me that would be good enough. If these people, I believe it's their personal property, and I think that they would want to get that, have those carts returned so that more customers could utilize these things. The other part of it is, okay, after speaking to quite a few people, they also, you might even think about, you have your carts there in the store, but if someone wants to take these, maybe offer some of these smaller carts for sale or something, these little smaller carts that you see at the swap meets or used to see at the swap meet, for them, for more on a personal basis, maybe encourage them, or maybe make that part of your inventory, instead of expecting them and wondering whether they're going to take your cart. I think you guys kind of know that the people without cars are going to take the cart home, okay? I mean, it's a blight to the city. Again, there's already communication with recycling businesses that they've been kind of asked not to accept recycles that are being brought in with somebody else's shopping carts, kind of like somebody else's vehicle, okay, so to speak. So I think probably more on the community side of policing and being proactive toward the business side of Lompoc. I think you guys already have enough struggles, and I don't know of anybody out there that says they don't want their cart back, okay? If they don't have a plan, or they don't have a phone number posted, or they have something. So if code enforcement did have some issue with, hey, 10 carts in a corner that no one's ever called, part of the community policing that we could do is say, hey, they could pick up the phone and say, hey, we have this kind of a cart retrieval process on file, and just do the right thing like we would do for somebody else that lost their personal property, and you try and get hold of the right people, so that it wouldn't result in a fine, a filing fee, or an extra charge. That's kind of I think that would probably go a lot farther as far as supporting our businesses.
Okay, I have plenty that I want to say about this, but I'd like to hear from the public before we go on, unless any other council member has anything to say. Okay, so we're going to open this up for public comment. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Sandra Plows, and I'm a resident of Lompoc, and I thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak. I have a little handout for you. I sent an email, so it's kind of a duplicate, and I attached some other information that may be of interest to you in the future. The reason I'm here is I believe that the shopping cart issue impacts the entire community because businesses would have to increase the cost of product in order to cover the cost of the fines. And I think that we all, would like to have the prices kept down. I also feel that the city has a unique position by having the City Economic Development Department to help work with businesses in an open environment to help resolve or look at different options available to resolve the shopping cart issue. I took the time to kind of research that in order not to stigmatize just any particular population, but to help the community at large. I did a request through Chris to show a 33-second video, and so so I'm just asking that you hold it over and assign it and give it a little more time before your vote, and that's it.
Okay. Do you have the 33-second video? That can be part of your 3 minutes.
That's right.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So Chris, do you want to show it? Okay, thank you. Okay, you're done, ma'am? You still have 27 seconds?
I'll just use up my little 27 seconds. The idea behind the coin op was actually given to me by a lady when I was volunteering at the library book sale. And I guess she said it was something that worked, but I did go to Wikipedia and find out there was a $9 million loss in shopping carts worldwide. So it would be nice for Lompoc to set a precedence in that.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, please.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, public at home. Dwayne, you mentioned earlier in the meeting today that you wanted to hear from...
State your name, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Aaron Crocker. I'm a resident of Lompoc and a business owner, the Lompoc Grocery Outlet. Dwayne, you mentioned earlier in the meeting today that you wanted to hear from local business owners, that we needed to have some kind of solutions brought from us regarding this issue. And I'm just curious if you remember me here 2 weeks ago along with my wife presenting a number of solutions. Okay. Did anybody get my email that I sent about a week ago with the, okay, good, glad to hear that. We've offered up a lot of solutions with this. Our stance is that we just need to do away with this, as Dirk stated earlier, and get back to square one and figure something out. I like Victor's solution. It's very simple. We just need to have a plan in place. We don't need to set this complicated precedence with a number of fees and everything else. I've talked to most of you already, and you know my stance on this whole issue. I'm just asking that we move forward with something that takes the business owners and the community into account, rather than trying to push something through regardless of our input. And I know that's what this meeting is for here, but when we were contacted a month ago, this was stalled, and it was asked that we get a hold of the local businesses and talk to the people that are directly affected by this ordinance. And I was excited to hear that. I was thinking, oh, great. This, first of all, it's the first I've heard about this, so I'm sure glad we stalled it. And secondly, great. City's going to get a hold of us, and we're going to come up with, some kind of solution and put our heads together and figure this out. And then in the mail, I get a letter that is essentially a copy of the ordinance and an invite to this meeting. And that's it. So it didn't seem like that was a good solution to figuring this out, working with us, putting our heads together to come up with a solution or running this by us. It was more, hey, show up to this meeting if you know, you want to have a say in this and you want to make your vote count. But beyond that, it didn't feel like much involvement from our side of things. So I ask that we cancel this ordinance and move forward with something that involves the businesses a little better and something more thought out. I mean, you've heard a lot of the feedback, I'm sure, from the community by now. A number of you have been approached, emailed. If you're on the Lompoc forums, they can be a little tedious at times, but there are a number of good suggestions and a lot of feedback on there. And I think this is something that, if passed, it's just not going to be a good look. So I appreciate your time. Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Mr. Crocker, just a couple of questions
Sure.
real quick. Have you ever been approached by a cart retrieval service?
Have, yes. Actually, before the initial council meeting where they had a presentation, and I thought that was a little odd that I was approached by them in regards to having them as a third-party cart service. I explained that I pick up all of our carts. I drive around in our truck, and you've probably seen our truck, and I think it's just good community advertising and community involvement where I'm in the alleys, there's people there, I talk to them. It's got the logo on the side of the truck, so we look at it as a way of advertising the business and just community involvement, you know, just shaking our neighbor's hand, saying hi. They're not the ones taking the cart, maybe they live across the street. They see me grabbing the cart, they roll their eyes, you know, oh, it's my neighbor.
But I do see a guy going around and picking up carts, but not yours.
Oh, right.
And so I know that some of the merchants in town have engaged this service, but it was just, is it something that's feasible for you to continue to go pick up your own carts?
It hasn't been an issue yet. I think the biggest issue is that they keep walking away, but part of that is, as Victor mentioned, some of our lower income families end up taking a cart home because they don't have any mode of transportation. I think with what we're trying to do here in the community and moving forward is finding other solutions for these individuals and these families to be able to get their groceries home in a manner that doesn't necessarily require our cart, but right now that's the only option. So yeah, I think it's feasible for me to continue doing it. It hasn't been an issue yet.
Do you ever pick up anybody else's carts and return them?
I actually have once, yeah. Just one time. That was complicated, involving our cart and a homeless individual not wanting to give one of our carts back. So I had another cart that I was going to offer him, and it was this complicated thing, and ended up having to get the police involved because we do that if we have to. And cops came out. I spent about an hour outside an alley while they got our cart back. I thought it would be a little simpler than that, but we got the cart back, and then I returned the one that I had in my possession over to our buddies at Walmart.
Sure, go ahead.
Sure.
If I could. Obviously, you must have some sort of a count of how many carts you have, right?
Mhm.
Kind of approximately. I mean, it is a cost of doing business for you guys, so you guys do want your personal property back, or else other
Absolutely.
people can't use it, okay? So I'm just not sure, you know, on your inventory, when you do this, how do you know? You guys know when 10 carts are missing, and you don't know where they're at, obviously, but
Right.
you know that someone took them. And, you know, so part of knowing what's missing is knowing what you have, you know, that would be part of what I would suggest. You know, you guys just have your own little plan. That's why I had to ask, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not
No.
sure if everyone does that, but, you know, they know that they have 100 carts, and that there's 10 missing and 10 never came back, you know?
Yeah.
Be kind of nice, or 10, I don't care because I still have 90, you know, so we're trying to get away from that mentality. Since 10 are gone,
Oh, no, we
still have
want every
90
single
left.
one back. And I think the difference with us versus just about every other business in town that has carts is that we are the only locally owned and operated bigger time grocery store here in town that's going to have a number of carts on hand. All the rest of these guys deal with corporate and everything else. Their bottom line, it's not top of mind for these folks to worry about those 10 carts. To us, that's 10 carts times, depending on how good of a deal we can get on carts, $100 to $150 probably is what we're looking at. Times 10, it's a chunk of change. When we took over this business, the previous business owner had 100 carts when he opened in November of 2012. We took over the business in November of 2014, bought the business, and he had 35 carts, and he had 100 less than 2 years before. So you do the math on, and those were brand new carts. This wasn't refurbished, which is what we look for because we try to get deals on them. So you're talking brand new carts, $175 to $225 times 65 carts. it's a chunk of change, and we knew that coming into it, and so that's why we've been trying to be proactive about getting ours picked up, and that's why I don't think it's going to be an issue. We never get them all back. Some definitely disappear. I don't know if they end up in the riverbed, somebody cuts them up and recycles them. Tough to say. We don't get them all back, but we do try to keep inventory, yes.
So is it unreasonable to say, hey, as far as the city's concerned, as part of the business license, if you did have shopping carts, at least provide them with some sort of a, that you have a cart retrieval process, whether it's you or anybody else, so that if code enforcement does have it, how do we connect you with code enforcement if they go out there and we do have an issue, okay, and you find a cul-de-sac that has 10 carts there and no one's picked them up, okay, I'm sure you'd like to be notified, and I'm wondering how we would do that and how we would connect, or we just trust the business owners to go find their carts, so we're trying to, I would like to see us work together without the fine, without the ordinance process.
Right. And that's what I'm kind of bringing to the table here, and that's what I think we need to do is stall and get rid of what we have on hand and work with something like this. I think that makes a lot more sense.
Because I think, what we said with even the police chief, he mentioned, hey, if they could get out of the bicycle business, they don't want to go around and have the police car and have a cart in the back of their trunk.
I don't blame
You know what I mean?
Yep.
They don't want to have a trailer hooked to all their police SUVs and pick up carts and then charge you $350 to get them back. I'm sure they don't.
Right, yeah, and we don't want to waste their time with that.
Yeah.
We know you guys are busy, absolutely.
As we look at it, the way I look at it, it is theft to a point, but then when we go around and you arrest people that really are having a hard time as it is, so what do? So we have to have another proactive plan, which I think that's what our goal is here.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
Without putting another law in place.
Right. Well, that's the thing is when you have these fees, these filing fees on top of just the plan itself. I mean, I think it's the legalese where it just needs to be very specific with all the things that are outlined in this plan. But it's just the amount of time that we're going to spend writing up this plan. Then we have to give a report annually on this plan and submit that as well. And then if the report finds that our current methods are not doing very well, we need to come up with alternative solutions and amend our plan and have all this on file at the city, and it just becomes this convoluted thing that I don't think we need to mess around with. We can find a better solution.
Thank you so much. Okay,
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Okay, next, please.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor. I just wanted to reiterate our feelings from the last meeting that the proposed ordinance for the shopping cart issue just doesn't seem like it's going to be the best solution that we could come up with. I feel like it will be negatively affecting local businesses, us included. I'm sorry, my name is Alex Crocker, and I am one of the owners of the grocery outlet here in town as well. I think that if we do go forward with this ordinance as proposed, that it will also encourage additional shopping cart theft on top of what already is an issue for us and all the other businesses in town, because it may set the precedence that it's okay to steal the shopping carts and that the business will take care of it, the business will get fined for it, and we don't have to worry about it as citizens taking the carts. So I just ask that you consider some alternatives, as Councilmember Vega mentioned and Councilmember Starbuck mentioned, that there's definitely lots of options besides this ordinance. And we do absolutely agree that the carts are an issue in the city. As Aaron mentioned, we drive around and pick up those carts, and we see the stacks of carts from the other businesses as well. And it is an issue, but finding the businesses I don't think is the right solution, and finding the people that are having a hard time I don't feel like is going to be a great solution either, although that is in place in the state that it is illegal for them to be taking them. It's kind of like trying to get blood from a stone. If they're having a hard time already, it's not going to be beneficial for anybody involved. So I just ask that you reconsider and that we work together and find a different solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Jason Freeman. I've lived in this town for years. My two main points is, one, In the 12 or so years that I've lived here, a shopping cart has never been a problem for me. I've never been driving down a roadway and been blocked by a shopping cart. I've never been walking and had one impeding my progress. I'm an adult. If I were to see a cart in my way, I can push it out of the way. You know, it's not been a big issue for me. And the ordinance that we are discussing today doesn't seem like it would address the problem, because it seems to be a symptom of other issues like poverty. And it doesn't really seem like it would impact the other issues. I think also that if we as a community really feel so strongly affected by random carts in our community that we as a community should pay for it, maybe we could do any number of other solutions that I've heard. But one that I haven't heard other people mention is we could raise sales tax and earmark that for cart collection or paying for carts for people that are too poor to afford a car. Maybe we could do anything like that, but this doesn't seem like it would fix the problem. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, please.
Hi, I'm a little taller, sorry. Hi, I'm Mike Sewell. I'm a longtime resident, actually born and raised in Lompoc, and I just wanted to come again before the council and ask you to please respectfully vote this down. There's a couple things that that government kind of gets trapped in, and one thing is when they've done a lot of work on a project to put it together, put staff time in, and it's already cost the taxpayer some dollars. They say, well, we've done all this work. We don't want to vote it down because they've done all this work, and that's great. But when there's a bad idea, you just got to call it a bad idea, and it's okay. We all have bad ideas. I have bad ideas every day, and I just got to say, you know what, that's a bad idea. Let's move on to the next one. And then there's a second problem that government sometimes gets into, and they get this idea that, well, we can put this law in the books, but we're never going to use it. We'll find another solution, and we'll just have it on the books in case there's like a really big problem maker, and we'll really punish that person. Well, that puts in the idea that you have this law in the book, and you can pick and choose who to punish and who not to punish. And I think that's a bad precedent to set for any law. And even though it's an ordinance, it's basically a law. You can enforce it by fines. And the third thing I want to say is, please reflect that I was here last time, and it seems like every single person, unless I'm mistaken, that came to speak to you guys was against this. So hopefully you can take the will of the people into, I'm sure you've been talking to people outside of this as well, and they've been telling you things. I'm sure you've been on Facebook, and I'm sure you're really sorry you were on Facebook for this issue because it's a pretty hot issue right now. But also, I just think we need to pull it back and let the community fix this problem instead of government.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, please.
Hello, my name's Tyann Camfield. I'm a Lompoc resident. I was here last time also speak against this ordinance. So I just again ask that you vote no for this. In the instance that you do vote yes, I would like for you to specifically state that the fine would only be for people who are consecutively leaving their cards out, not picking up, refusing, because like the last gentleman said, we don't want, to pick and choose who is going to be fined and not. I'm a homeless advocate in the community. I volunteer a lot through the Advocacy and Action Committee, which we did invite a couple of you guys to come to, and we've talked about this issue, and I wish you guys would have been there because there was a lot of community input. We hold it every third Wednesday of the month at Coast Valley, over behind Floriano's. And a lot of people came, to talk about how it affects the poor and the homeless in the community. So I feel like if we need to resolve this, community policing is the best way. I did tag a couple of you in a Facebook post where it's already happening, the ones I could find on Facebook. There are some community members, I believe they were calling them missionaries, that were going around town and picked up, it seemed to be about 30 carts. And there was a big response from the community. So even though this ordinance was frustrating to me originally, unfortunately, it's already started a ripple effect of positivity in the community. You've seen people, people went out and they offered these guys pizza and water, so they got the point, and I think it's going to be resolved. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening, Council. My name is Shane Berg. I am a resident of Lompoc. My first preference would be Mr. Starbuck's idea, just keep the city out of it. That's the way to go. Barring that, I would like to propose a second alternative, and that's a two-part plan to rid this whole issue. The first part is to incentivize the public to pick up these carts. For a 25 to 50 cent per cart credit to their utility bill, people would be incentivized to go out and pick up carts. They would then turn them back or go back to the owners of the carts, have a document signed that they brought back 25 carts. Bring that to the utility counter, and they get a credit, 25 to 50 cents for each cart on their utility bill. Now, how do you pay for this? That's part two. One way, 1 penny per cart by the owner for how many carts are turned in. This keeps them from having to, or signing off documents saying, yeah, I got back 5,000 carts when I only have 100 carts in my store. So we have the fraud kept down that way. The second way is a small fine to those caught taking the carts off the premises of the owner. $10 per cart, or per time they're caught with a shopping cart. $10 will not break the bank. I've been poor, I've been there, I've scraped money together and had to walk to work every day because I didn't have gas money. $10 is a very small fee, but $10 would pay for 20 carts picked up. We could easily pay that fee that way. We would have people incentivized to go out and pick up the carts, turn them in, keeping our city clean. We would pay for it by penalizing those who steal the carts. Let's be honest, it's theft. It doesn't belong to them. If they would turn them back in, people probably wouldn't be as concerned about it. But they don't turn them back in, they just leave them sitting around when they get home. That's the way I see it. It's very simple to do. It wouldn't cost the city anything to do it. It wouldn't cost the companies much to do it. It would put the onus back on the person who's stolen the carts, instead of risking the businesses paying thousands of dollars to upgrade all of their carts and then turn around, increase their costs, which will then drive some of these businesses out of town because they can't afford this. And now we've lost tax revenue because we don't have the businesses anymore. And the people who are taking the carts are hurt the worst because there's no businesses now for them to go shopping and take the carts home with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Mayor and council members, good evening.
Good evening.
Interesting meeting tonight. I'm opposed.
State your name, please.
Oh, Deanne Carr. Thank you. Sorry. I'm opposed to the ordinance, and the three issues that I have are: I agree with Mr. Starbuck that the residents are kind of a third party here. We don't really have a dog in the fight as far as whether there's carts on the street. And the key actors are the retail businesses. So my question is, why haven't we got the chamber involved? Where Mr. Ostini is here, perhaps he can say what the chamber has discussed. All these people are probably members of the chamber, so there's already a network in place for the chamber for local issues and for the chain stores for franchisee options with their franchisors. So I feel very strongly that the ordinance just shuts down shopping carts and really doesn't address the need for the shopping carts, why they're walking away. And so I want to volunteer to seek out other people who want to work on this issue and look at alternative carts. I met a woman who does recycling, and she has a little plastic wagon that she put a storage bin in, fixed it in, and she pulls that around, and that's not an expensive option. So for people who do want to do recycling, maybe that's something we as a community could do, is help those people with some kind of conveyance, because that's what it is a conveyance. I'm also concerned that I didn't see a lot of data, and I did talk to Cy at the cart retrieval company. And he said last year, 2015, 2,810 carts were retrieved. That's about 54 carts per week. That's a lot of carts. But what we don't know is where the carts are ending up, what neighborhoods. And that's one way, if we have that information, that's how we can evaluate our bus service. Maybe the problem is a hole in the bus service in certain neighborhoods, and other things. So I attached a map there that I asked Cy if this was something that the subcontractor here could maybe participate in. There's a map there. If they could mark where they pick up a cart on the map and what store it's from, we can kind of see the migration, and just an option. So I'd be willing to put in time and, envelopes and provide the copies for the maps and all that. I'd be willing to put in for that. It's important, I think, for the community to support people who don't have the resources. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next, please. Speak of the devil.
What? Mr. Mayor, council members, city staff, Ken Austini, Lompoc Valley Chamber of Commerce. I am speaking on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce tonight. Are abandoned shopping carts a nuisance in our community? Sure they are. I think everybody knows that. Is this ordinance the answer? No, it's not. Hopefully you all have had an opportunity to read that thing thoroughly. I read it and read it and read it and read it and read it, and there's some things in there that just amaze me. I'm amazed by the fact that there's a part in there where people who don't even have shopping carts have a requirement to have a storage area for abandoned shopping carts in their area, which I was just kind of dumbfounded by that. I like the ideas and suggestions that we get the stakeholders involved. If we need an ordinance in our community, then let's get the stakeholders, sit down in a workshop and develop an ordinance that works for everybody, not just something that the city wants to propose. So that's my recommendation to you, is if we need to do this and you agree we need to do something, then let's get the stakeholders involved and put together something that works for everybody, not something that's just forced down their throats. Because one side effect of this, if it does go through as written, and the financial impacts on our businesses will have a financial impact on our community, because that will have an impact on the giving they give to all the different organizations in this community year-round, and that's probably hundreds of thousands of dollars of giving by these businesses. So please relook this. If we must have something, let's get folks involved that are part of the situation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, please.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, John Lynn. I've been a businessman and a resident of Lompoc for 35 years. So I speak from a little bit of history. I have to agree with all the speakers, and I think most of you on the council, in that we probably don't want to pass this ordinance. I think we have an overkill for a small problem. But if you do decide, I would ask you that you exempt the 31 small businesses that are on the list that may or may not have a large quantity of carts, because they don't need one more report to fill out, and they don't need to store carts for others. One of the biggest problems in shopping carts, and I dealt with it when I was mayor, was the cart retrieval service can't find them. You know, they don't have a little radio collar on them. You can't go to it. And I have a friend who actually did it for a while in Santa Barbara, and he cried the blues about trying to chase them down and how many they lost because they simply couldn't find them. But there are some solutions out there. So if we feel we have to do something, and I'm hoping that you don't, number one, the carts should have the name of the store on it if they don't. Number two, they should have the address of the store, so if somebody felt like they wanted to return it, they would know where to take it. And they would have a phone number where someone could call if they found the abandoned cart, and an email address if they wanted to email in, which everyone younger than I am wants to do. And finally, if the business is served by the California Shopping Cart Retrieval Service, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of the California Grocers Association, you can put a QR logo. That's that funny little squiggle. And they have a system where if you have an iPhone and you see a cart with a squiggle, you walk up to it and you take a picture, and automatically it forwards the picture and the GPS coordinates of the cart to the cart retrieval service. And that's a pretty amazing bit of technology. So who would that affect? Well, the cart retrieval service currently handles the 99-cent store, Albertsons, CVS, Dollar Tree, Foods Co., Marshalls, Michaels, Petco, Staples, Vons, Walmart, and Walgreens. So they serve 12 of the 15 large providers of shopping carts within the city. I did speak to them about the service that they provide. It's provided out of Santa Maria, and I suggested to them that perhaps they needed to come a little more often and be a little more diligent. But again, they said to me the same thing they said to me the number of times I've talked to them before, which is, we need help finding them. If you would help us, that would be good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Evening, Mayor and Council. Will Schuyler, Lompoc. Sitting back reminiscing a little bit here. Most of you know the League of California City has various policy committees, and I was on one of the policy committees and shopping carts came up. We had quite a few meetings on it, and actually we had a police chief on our committee, and we ended up there that the shopping center cart would be considered a vehicle. So if it's parked in a street and it's an obstruction in the street, then an officer could come by and order it towed and impounded because it was a traffic hazard or a hazard to the community. If it was on private property, then it's on private property, and the cart is a piece of private property. So, you know, why would law enforcement be interested in it? Unless it's abandoned property, and that the owner then would have to file for abandonment on it. And we went round and round for a long time. And we finally figured, you know, it's a statewide problem. Why don't we turn it to the state? And thank you very much, Councilman Starbuck, for doing your homework and finding out that there is a state law on shopping carts, and it came out of a policy committee of the League of California Cities. So the discussion you're having tonight, I had over 8 years ago in a policy committee. So it's not in your hands. We also ruled that if you did arrest it, you'd have to arrest the cart and Mirandize it. And we didn't really see that going over very well. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, seeing no one rise, we're going to close all communication or public comment and bring it back to the council. If you'd indulge me for a few minutes. First of all, I want to thank everyone that spoke. We have, I'm going to speak for the entire council, we have taken note of everything you said, all of the information we've received. We've received phone calls, we've received emails, we've received written reports here today, numerous ones, and we have taken note. One of the things I made a note to myself, just in the past, well, it's been a month now, I guess. When we had the first one? Month? Yeah, it's been a month. We have noticed a difference. Someone mentioned it today. Just the idea of talking about it has made a difference, okay? Now, other than maybe Councilmember Starbuck, I don't know, is anyone else on the council feel that we don't have a problem here in the city? Anyone feel that we do not have a problem? Okay, and I think everyone out there said that there is a problem. I mean, yeah, I think you've all admitted that there is a problem, and somehow you all suggested ways of getting it addressed. Okay, so since I believe we all kind of agree that there is a problem, let me try and take the ordinance we have right now, try to incorporate what I've heard from you, and see if we can come up with it. It's going to take me a little while because I'm going to go through the ordinance. For those of you that haven't read it, you're going to hear it right now.
Mr. Mayor, can we finish discussion on this? I mean, I know you wanted to go already, but I mean, after we heard public comment, I mean, I don't know if we would be allowed to back to discuss.
Of course you are. This is my discussion.
Before you step
Sure, go ahead.
forward with that, maybe we could.
Go ahead.
Okay. I guess my question to the city manager is, with the document in the business and professions code section that Councilmember Starbuck has, is there a reason why we don't work with this? Did you feel there were too many holes, or, I mean, are we trying to enhance it?
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, I just had a short time to read on it, and it did declare it, I guess, a misdemeanor for the carts, for somebody to be stealing a cart. And if there seems to be a lot of teeth in this already, and there seems to be adequacy, Mr. City Attorney, maybe you can.
When this matter was first brought to you, the staff report explained that we understood that that law was existed, and we also understood that what we were trying to do was not have the city become the entity that had to go out and enforce that law. And so we didn't take the approach of relying on that law, because that law, the way it's implemented is the city has to then go out and either have the police department arresting people or taking ownership of the carts, and then the city has to have the carts stored somewhere, and then if the city wants to destroy the carts, they have to give notice to the cart owners. And so we didn't think that that's what the council was looking for, was for the city to take on more of the responsibility of how to take care of the carts, which is what would need to happen if we followed that state law.
So if we pass this ordinance, then our ordinance would supersede state law?
It wouldn't supersede. The state law allows the cities to do what was being suggested with this ordinance.
But would we still be required by law to uphold this law?
We're not required to enforce that law.
We're not required to enforce this law. How do we pick and choose then why we don't enforce this state law? How does that work that we have to do?
The same as any state law. The city is not obligated to enforce any law. The city has a limited budget. All cities do. They decide what matters are important and focus on, and this was brought to you because there was a request by council members to do something with shopping carts, issues that were felt to be occurring in the city. And so we put together an ordinance that we thought would be effective without having the city take on the responsibility for having to collect the carts on the streets, have a place to hold the carts, and have a way to notify people, and then have to destroy the carts if the carts weren't retrieved.
So then I guess what you're saying is the state law would be more burdensome on the city, and so that's why this was drafted up, was a little more burdensome, or well, I don't know how you would call it, more on the owners of the carts, more make them assume more responsibility. That's what.
Yes.
Okay.
One of the things is we noticed, or we heard today from our police chief, we had to call in an extra crew today. Now, this was an unusual day, but I mean, if we put all of the responsibility on our police officers to be out there issuing citations to the people that steal the cart, and we've heard from the people that maybe it isn't what we want to do. Maybe we don't want to be penalizing the person that doesn't have the vehicle. So are we going to ask our police officers to, a mother with 3 kids pushing the cart down the street, and police officer rolls up and unloads the groceries onto the sidewalk, picks up the cart and issues her a $5 fine or whatever it is. I don't think that's what we want our police officers to do. Anyway, no, does anyone else want to say anything, or I'm going to? Okay, so let me see if this works, and Mr. Crocker, I'd like you to sort of comment on it too is when we're done. Normally, we're done with public comment, but I believe you are the only grocery. Are there any other business owners that have shopping carts in the audience? Okay, so when you hear this, if you like it, you don't like it, I'd appreciate your comments on it as well. Okay, and the council can sort of follow by. I'll go through the page by page with us. First page, there's no change on it. It's just we're having a public meeting and the discussion why we're going to be doing it. But let's go to the third page, which is the ordinance. Again, there's a lot of whereases, wherebys, just why we're doing it again. Let's go down to the very last 2 paragraphs where it talks about definitions. Abandoned shopping carts prevention plan, okay? I want to make sure that everyone realizes that we're not going to require at a cost for anyone, because Mr. Crocker was right. In this ordinance, there was going to be a fee when the grocery store, the shopping center provided a plan to us. We were going to charge you a fee for filing that. That's going to be omitted if what I'm presenting goes through. So that fee is gone. On the Second page, it talks about the different options. If you look at the fourth paragraph, it talks about the physical parameter. Now, Vaughn's has the physical parameter. That's one of the options that people can come up with. I like that. Let's go down to the third paragraph from the bottom. It talks about shopping carts identifying signs shall mean a sign engraved surface permanently affixed to the shopping cart, which includes all of the following information: the shopping cart owner's name, business address, telephone number, and the following language in capital letters. Unauthorized removal of the shopping carts from this premises is prohibited by law, which goes that, and it references a code. Mr. Crocker, I believe you said that this would be very expensive for you to affix this to the cart, so I'm going to recommend with what I'm saying, let's eliminate that. The ordinance would not have you mandatorily affix that to it. I think it's to your advantage to have some identifying information like grocery outlet or Vons or something on there, but we're not going to require you to put anything on there, okay? On the next page where it talks about shopping cart identification, oh yeah, again, required. We're going to eliminate that. You're not going to be required to pay for those identifying signs on there. Just some minor changes in the third paragraph in the bottom where it talks about when this is going to take effect. I just changed it from October 31st to December 31st, 2016. Just give us a bunch of time. The last paragraph, an inventory of all carts. Part of the plan would be, this whole paragraph. I am going to say that I think we should have every one of you to prepare a shopping cart prevention plan, okay, abandonment prevention plan. So that's one thing I'd like to keep in there, that you just come to the city and tell us what you're doing. A grocery outlet is already doing it. They're picking theirs up. Vons is already doing it. They have their perimeter around there. Mr. Lynn mentioned that there's 12 places that have the shopping cart service. That's their plan. They're done. All they have to do is tell us what they're doing. They're done. Okay, but a complete inventory, let's strike that from there. That's too much, and they'd have to continually do that. On page 4, community outreach. I think this is a good portion in there. A description of the community outreach, so this is part of your plan, a description of the community outreach process under which the owner shall cause notice to provide customers removal of carts from the premises is prohibited by law and a violation of state law. So we reference this law. So in your location someplace, you'll be putting up posters or something in your store where your shopping carts are. Just a sign there saying removal from the premises is against the law and reference the code. On item number F on here, it's a big, long paragraph. It says it must be removed within 24 hours, evidence of contract and everything. We could take that responsibility off you. I'm going to leave it up. You say it, let's police yourselves. Okay, so a plan to retrieve abandoned shopping carts by the owner or evidence of a contract with the shopping cart retrieval service. That's all this paragraph would say. A plan to retrieve it, the abandoned carts, or a contract with the service. Okay, let's go to the page 5 on number C. Okay, the shopping cart removal plan sufficient or inadequate to, these are reasons for denial where the city manager would be able to deny it. Okay. It's sort of arbitrary, but I think we have to have some reason why the city manager can deny it. He can't just say, they come back to me, that all my shoppers bring it back to me. Just, okay, what happens if they don't? So just some sort of an idea of that you are going to bring them back. Evaluation report, we'll delete the evaluation report. We're not going to, according to my idea right now, we won't make you put in a yearly report how it's doing. I was talking to the city manager today about this, and he made a comment. What's it called? It'll be in the pudding. If we don't see any shopping carts on the street, the proof will be in the pudding. If the shopping carts, the abandoned shopping carts are decreasing, obviously it's working. Fees, no fees for you. You submit your plan, there's no fee when you submit it. Modifications to the plan, we'll leave that portion in there. If you currently are going out and picking up your own, but you want to put up a perimeter, okay, you modify your plan. Just let us know what you're going to be doing. You're not going to be picking up, you've got your automatic barrier over there. Again, no fee for that. On the next page, renewal and exemptions. It says, the director, okay, so we'll delete that portion. It says, any owner granted an exemption from the retrieval plan shall file with the director a written application for 1 year renewal. Well, I don't know why it's only 1 year. If you're going to change it, and then you don't have to renew it after every year. It's just automatic forever. Okay, for the penalty phase, where it was $1,000, remember the city manager says, we hope we'd never institute this fee. It was only for the person that just snubs their nose and says, we're not going to do anything about it, and their carts are all over the place. So I'd like that paragraph to say, any person who violates any provision of the chapter shall be charged with a misdemeanor, punishable by, this is if they don't submit it, okay? $100 a month until they submit their plan, okay? If they do not submit a plan, they're going to be charged or fined $100 until they submit that plan to us. Number B.
Are you leaving the word misdemeanor in there?
Any person who violates this, I guess, we'll leave that with, I don't know if it, yeah, I guess, but it's chapter 24. Yeah, I guess we'll leave it in there. Now, we can just change that to say if you don't have a plan, okay, so penalties and failure to submit. If you don't have a plan, you can be charged $100 a month. That's all it really needs to say. We don't have to say they're violating the code or anything like that, just $100 a month. Okay, the last paragraph there, item B, it shall be unlawful for businesses knowingly to have on the premises of other customers shopping carts, and this is what I think Mr. Santini was, let's delete that. That's, why should grocery outlet be responsible for Kmart's, we don't have Kmart's, thankfully, Walmart's shopping carts. Okay, the first paragraph in my ordinance, I'd like to see, this would be on the top of page 8, removal or possession of the shopping carts is unlawful. So it'd just be the first paragraph. It'll be, it is unlawful for any person to remove or possess any shopping cart outside the business premises of the shopping cart's owner or provided without the express written permission consent of the owner as provided, okay. So you've got, we're going to say, post your signs over there saying that it is against the law, it is a misdemeanor. And we're going to put it on there that it is against the law. I'd like to see that number 1. Now, this is where we take a little bit of responsibility, and I'm going to put some responsibility on our police officers, or I'm asking to do it. I don't want them to, like I say, they had to call in an extra crew today. But our police officers really know the habitual people. We know the habitual drug addict. We know the habitual homeless person. We know if we see someone that is a consistent violator of this ordinance, they stop and say, hey, do you know this is against the law, okay? And issue a warning to them, hey, you can't do it anymore. Take the shopping cart back, or unload your groceries, take it back. But if you see that person every single day, then that person, if they're not going to be doing anything, that person that continually takes the carts, yes, issue them a citation. And it would be the same as stealing a bicycle. It's Penal Code 488, petty theft. They're released. They're not put in jail or anything. They're issued a small citation. I don't know what the charge of that citation is, Penal Code 488. It can't be very much. But this is a person that habitually abuses it. And I think our police officers will know who they are. Businesses without shopping carts, just eliminate that. Why should, I don't know, the barber shop be responsible for grocery outlets shopping carts being on the premises? So we don't want to do that. So eliminate that paragraph there with, yeah, so we'll eliminate that. We'll eliminate that. Okay. So, in essence, all we're going to be doing, if we were to pass this version of it tonight, we'd ask you to submit a plan. What's your plan? How are you going to keep the shopping carts off the streets, okay? Or how are you going to retrieve them? Grocery Outlet has their plan already done. They go out and pick them up. Bang, they're done, okay? You don't have to pay any fee for that. You don't have to renew it every single year. But we'll be able to tell if it's working if we see a bunch of carts out there. Make it real simple. You have some responsibility. You submit the plan, and then you fulfill your plan. Okay. If you have no plan, if you refuse to submit a plan, then we can fine you $100 a month until you do submit the plan. The person that takes the cart, if they're habitual abuser of it, if they habitually take the cart, after kind warnings, after reminders, yes, then issue them a citation. It'll be Penal Code 488. So, okay, so and then this is the other thing I'd like to see if we go with this version of it. I'd like to have us review this in 6 months or a year, whatever we want, to see if it's working. If it's not working, okay, eliminate this or go with something different. But there is a problem with shopping carts. I know the one gentleman, I'm sorry, are you still here? Yeah. Okay, yes. I know you're right. I can avoid them as well, but there is a problem, and they are hazards to some people. Kids playing with them, they see them on the street, and they push each other up and down the hills. So they are a hazard. So we want to address it. And like I say, it's already being addressed. Ever since we came up with this ordinance a month ago, it's getting better. We had community members going and picking them up, just as who mentioned it on Facebook, they showed it. So community can get involved in it, help recover the carts. The store owners can get involved, the city will get involved. Would be a community event trying to get rid of it, but I'm proud of our city, but we want to keep it looking clean. We don't want the carts all over the place. And there's sometimes, you've all seen them where there's 5, 6, 7 of them all stacked up, and they're just shoved into a parking lot. Okay, would you guys like to talk first, or can I get Mr. Crocker up and the other property owner, just give me their ideas?
I just had a simple question.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
How do you know whose carts they are if you've taken out the identification sign?
Okay, this is, like I say, if we see carts out there, this plan, Mr. Crocker said he doesn't, it's expensive to put these signs on there. So I'm saying, okay, don't. How does everyone know what there's, do all property owners, or do all the carts have it, like some sort of identification on them? I've never seen a cart that it doesn't have it on there.
They have the logo and most of them.
Yeah, come on up here, address it. So what Mr. Crocker was talking about is a special identifying tag with all this information, but he has Grocery Outlet in his handle and everything.
Right. Most of us that have carts know what our carts look like. Most of our residents know which ones are Geo, which ones are Walmart, just by the color, simply. When I'm patrolling the alleys, I just look for red, because nobody else has red handles and badges and anything else, but they are plastered with Grocery Outlet all over them. One issue we've experienced is people actually peeling off the seat labels as well as the handle labels, so then they become unidentified. And those ones, if I find them out around town, I try to take those and we can order additional handles and things to get repaired. But they do have the logos and everything on there.
Let me ask you, now, what I just presented, would that work for you? Because you've already taken care of it. All you're doing is presenting the plan.
I think that everything you're saying is exactly what we've been talking about since 2 weeks ago and over the last 2 weeks with a number of you through emails or direct personal communication. I'm wondering why it's taken a month to work with the community and the business owners to get this plan figured out when initially it was just brought up without any regards to us. And I appreciate what we're doing right now, but I would need to see formal document put together before anything is agreed upon.
Sure.
And even
So-
from there, there may be additional issues and questions with it. With the things that you're saying right now, the vague idea of it sounds okay, but there'd have to be actual language involved that I would have to read because it sets a precedence. Whatever gets put in there is official.
You're right. So if the council agrees to something like this, it would come back for another, well, we'd get you involved in it, okay? I promise you we'd get you involved in it.
That's what I think we need to
At
do.
least you and the other gentleman, I don't know your name. The other-
If we just want to vote on a rework, right, and then from there, we can work with the local business owners that do have these carts, and then bring something formal that everybody's had a say in, I don't think we're going to encounter any resistance at all.
Okay, but Mr. Crocker, what I'm trying to avoid, see, most of the things that came forward was making the responsibility to all the cities, providing alternate transportation, buying carts and even if we bought carts, those carts would be abandoned as well. I think there has to be some responsibility on you as a business owner.
To go pick them up.
To go pick them up, yes. It shouldn't be all on the city, and our police department is way too busy to be out there retrieving all of your carts, so I don't want to do that. So I promise you that if we rework this, before it even comes back to the council, we'll get you involved in it.
Okay.
I promise you that. But in general, what you heard, would that work for you?
The vague idea of that,
Yeah.
sure, but again, without any formal thing.
course,
I mean,
okay.
yes, things that are being omitted are things that we took issue with, for sure. Things that are still in there definitely make sense as far as having a plan, but until any kind of formal documentation is presented.
I'll make sure you get involved. We need something. I really believe we need something. We can't just say, forget about everything and let it go back to the way it was, because whoever said there was 35 carts a week being picked up, I really believe there's more than 35 carts a week out at abandoned carts on our city streets.
Well, I just wonder if 12 to 13 businesses are all contracted with this cart company, why do we have a problem? If it's just me, Home Depot, and I think one other listed that are not contracted, and I pick up all of mine, why do we have an issue to begin with?
Well, but you had just admitted, we do have an issue.
Sure.
So that's, I want to address it, okay? I don't think we can just put our head in the sand and ignore the problem we know exists, so.
Well, I appreciate you
Okay.
working at it.
Hey, Bob, I have a question
Sure,
while
go ahead.
Mr. Crocker's up.
Sure, go ahead.
If it's okay, and also for Joe. Outside of an ordinance, our business licensing yearly, is that one other avenue that can be taken? For instance, someone that had shopping carts as a question and submit a plan when we issue business licenses. Is that something on the questionnaire that could be addressed without an ordinance? For them to submit a plan or a cart retrieval plan or something like that, okay, for businesses that do have carts? We have, what, 10 or 12 businesses in this town?
40
that have, we have 14? Is that what we have?
40, I believe.
40, okay. Well, whatever it is that a way of doing it without implementing a fine or a fee? Or sounds like we could modify any questionnaire that we wanted to, probably, for a business license.
The process that you're describing is a little more complicated than that. The city has two functions in reviewing businesses. There's the business licenses, which are permits that are issued to business, but not all businesses need a business license. The other thing that the city gets and grants is a business tax certificate, which is basically just a receipt for having paid a business
And I got you.
tax. We can't condition that tax certificate on anything other than paying the tax, because it's not regulatory, it's revenue generating. So if you could, if you wanted to, implement a requirement that any business that uses shopping carts has to have a business license, a separate permit to be able to have shopping carts, then you could attach that condition to that.
But that's another fine of sorts, or a fee, correct?
Right.
It's another fee schedule. So basically, the business tax certificate is not the avenue.
Correct.
Because what's going to happen here is what I'm thinking, if Mr. Crocker was to sell his business, or when he took over his business, someone else would have to come and apply for another use, correct? On
Business tax certificate.
Another business tax, so that would trigger another plan, so to speak, to be submitted to the city, unless I'm mistaken, okay? Or does the existing plan?
Not on the business tax certificate side.
Not on the
Only-
business tax
Only on the business license, if you require businesses that have shopping carts to have to get business licenses to operate that shopping cart. So it's two separate.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see how we can keep away from seeing an ordinance. You know, seeing here that, you know, we have things that have been struck out by the mayor here. Employee training, mandatory cart retrieval, you know, we're going to take that out. An owner who fails to submit a plan, we're going to fine him $100 a month. I get that. What I'm trying to do is see what we can do to work with the businesses. I get it. Okay, obviously, Mr. Crocker, as you can see, it's a blight situation sometimes. Okay, it's not just a matter of the carts laying there, but it does add, you know, we have beautification committees and commissions that, you know, they look for things that are, you know, suffering from deferred maintenance, and then the weeds, and then the carts in between. So I think that's what we're trying to address.
Yeah.
So that when we see a cart, we just don't leave it there, you know? So I'm just wondering, you know, with the plan and having a phone number for the cart retrieval per people, you know, maybe we can all work hand in hand. I was trying to see without going through an ordinance and a fine. I think that's what you guys would like to try and avoid also.
Yep.
And what I'm saying is, we wouldn't fine them. I mean, well, if they just snub their
Well,
noses.
there is a fine implemented in your proposal. I got you.
Yeah, we eliminate that fine. The only fine is if they completely do nothing. Yeah, then it's $100 a month until they at least come up with a plan, so.
Yeah, and you know,
It could
Bob,
be, like Mr. Lynn had this little idea on there. That's a plan, and that's a great idea. I don't know how much those things would cost, but it's a great idea. You know, that could be your plan. You're just gonna put those
I guess
IDs on there.
what our goal here is also is to keep code enforcement from adding to their workload also, okay? I believe that's part of it, or maybe it's not from the city. I'm not sure.
Of course, you know.
You just never know, you know, so I have to ask whether.
Councilman Starbuck, did you want?
This isn't towards Mr. Crocker, nor is it about the ordinance, about the process we're here. Next Tuesday, we're having a meeting about transparency. The city manager made a statement that some council members had been concerned about this. The attorney just made the same statement. I'd never heard about this ordinance until the last meeting. How did we even get here with this? It was never brought up as a council request. It was never put out on the dais. And now we're trying to shove an ordinance.
Actually, it was a council request by Councilmember Mosby and myself.
When was this? I would gladly look this up.
Actually, I didn't make a formal request. I happened to coincidentally be walking by, and somebody was working on something, because I was going to pose the question of making a council request.
Okay, well, okay. So Councilmember Mosby, I know I made a formal council
Who was the
request
third?
publicly. I don't even know when it was. It's been years ago, or not years ago. It's been a while back. Yeah, but there was a formal request at a public meeting, and that's why it's being addressed. So.
Somebody could do the favor of letting me at least know so I could go re-review it sometime, please.
Okay. Councilmember Mosby.
It was briefly stated that possibly not all the carts are identifiable. And I think I've seen there's somebody with some black carts out there right now that don't have tagging on them. So maybe if we have in here about your shopping cart identification, if the cart isn't readily identifiable, that they make it so. Because I think there are some mystery carts that are floating around. It's not all of them are tagged and bagged. There are some floaters.
Councilmember Humdahl.
This came up about a month ago or so. I keep losing, we got two weeks every time we have a meeting. And I asked at that time I should have a workshop just on this, just for the owners who have the concern. And that's what we have here tonight, but with the new proposition Bob brought up, that needs to be looked at by all. I really, if it was my choice, I'd like to have the chamber be there, take that on as an issue and come back with a recommendation from the chamber, which represents the business. And I think that way, instead of having the council meeting, then once the final document comes in, then we can have a round of talk here at the council meeting. You got some good information. We can't do it tonight, but you're gonna have to put
Well,
it.
we can do it tonight.
Yeah. I don't think there's enough
The
there.
three of you can authorize city staff to work with what I just read to you, come up with a simplified version of this ordinance. And then I would meet, or city staff would meet with Mr. Crocker and this, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, I'm sorry, the other gentleman.
My name is Mr. Randell. I'm the owner of Walmart.
Okay, good, okay, I'm sorry.
I have a lot of cards.
Okay, so meet with at least the two of them, since they're the only two at this meeting, but we can invite other people to look at it with us. Okay? So that's all I'm asking, is that we realize there is an issue. This, and someone mentioned, the only reason we want to pass this because we spend a lot of money on it. Well, that's not the only reason we'd want to pass something. But there has been a lot of time and effort put into this. So why throw the entire thing out if there is some valuable information in it? Take out the portions that have been objected, bring it back and let it be reviewed. And then if at least these two gentlemen agree to it, bring it back, then the council for review publicly for everyone else to hear it. That's all I'm asking. So I'm going to make that a motion, that you allow city staff to work with my version that I just read to you. They can simplify this thing. I'll make sure that you two gentlemen get to see it before it's brought back to the council. And that's all I'm asking. So that's my motion.
I'm not against the motion. I'll second it because I think you at least got a program set there. But I do believe it's going to be, I still like to have the chamber involved because they're going to be representing all these people.
I can invite the chamber. I can invite the
I
chamber.
would think they should be, and make sure there's an invitation to every owner that has carts in town. Now, they've got to have a little their two bits put in. And everybody talking about the shopping carts and where they're stuck. One of the biggest problems we have on carts too is at 246 in the bridge. At night, when people are walking across the bridge, you got these carts stacked up. And I think that's why we had to find a way to make sure we get them out of town. Yeah, the day after we had our first meeting, there was 7 carts piled up on the corner of A and Central. Never seen them there before, but all of a sudden they decided that's where they're going to stick them that night. And that was it. They finally moved them here about a week ago. So I think we do need the ordinance. There's some good parts of the ordinance that have been modified, but I think get them out and have the chamber and then some of the other business involved so that when it comes to the council, it's going to have some recommendations from everybody in town indirectly.
Okay. So it's been moved in I'm sorry, Councilmember Maltby.
I don't know if there was an addition on top of your motion about bringing all the players to the table.
No, well, I'll tell you what. These two gentlemen, this information it's been out there.
There are other people here that have carts as well. There were other hands. I think there was another lady in the back had her as well as the owner of carts as well. So there are other people involved here. So
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We will send a notice out to the list that's attached to the agenda, attached to your staff report. We will say that if you're interested in reviewing a revised ordinance, come to City Hall at such and such a time and date. Okay. Would that satisfy everyone? Is everyone there? Are you on your list? Did you see the list here? Okay. Okay. Okay, so that'd be my motion, and you're seconding that. Okay. Any discussion? Let's vote. And that passes 3-2. Okay. Okay. Okay, so staff, I will start working with you tomorrow on that. And it won't come back in 2 weeks. It'll be a little while, but so we'll get in touch with everyone. So, okay, thanks for all your participation. Okay, we're going to go on to item number 9, council request. Council direction regarding digitalization of written staff reports. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, council members, and colleagues. First of all, my apologies, because this was an item that was brought up and requested by, I believe, Councilmember Mosby, and second and third by other members. And when I first was recalling in my head what was being requested, I took it to be that there was a full comprehensive look of wanting to develop agendas, full staff reports for every item, and complete minutes, which I was then projecting would need an expansion of city clerk staff. I've been going through, it's a tedious process, but I've been going through each of the all of the council requests over probably about the last year and a half, still making my way through that. And in rehearing this one, I noticed that I was making this into a much bigger issue than was being requested. And the request was rather simple and straightforward. Could we indeed digitize those reports? Anything that was a staff report, could we get it in digital form and get it onto the website? And identifying that as being the request and not adding in all these other concerns and issues, then I believe it's a fairly straightforward and easy, reasonable request to make, an easy request to satisfy, and I don't have any reason why we wouldn't be doing that. So assuming it's limited to that intended desire to make sure that we don't merely just have the paper trail, but we also have a digitized form onto the website, then I believe we can do that, and would be happy to accommodate that. My apologies for reading more into it than what was there. So anyway, with that, that concludes our report, and we stand prepared to follow your wish.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Wemiller? Okay, actually, is there... Okay, there's no action on that as long as you've got all the information you needed.
Well, yeah.
But there's no action. So we'll open up the public comment.
Sue Copeland, Mayor, Council, staff. I think that it is an excellent idea to have more information out for us. One thing I would like to add is that it be timely. And one thing that's been disappointing for me is the city council minutes are really behind. I know that we get the videos up right away, but to sit through the whole city council meeting trying to watch the video, it'd be really nice to be able to scan through and quickly see what was covered in the minutes.
I think we put a bunch, were you the one to mention it a couple of weeks ago?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. I think you saw probably within days a bunch came up.
Yeah, so right now the last one is June 21st.
Okay, so they are catching up. So, and I thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Okay, thank you.
I did think this was going to be an action by council to give that direction, so.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and just recommend that we go ahead and put it on the website.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Let's vote. 5-0. Okay, 5-0, thank you. Okay, that brings us to item number 10, which is consideration of fee waiver request.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. This request was made at the July 19th meeting by the mayor, asking staff to return to council with a discussion on reducing and/or waiving conditional use permit fees for an organization that benefits the community, such as one formed under the Internal Revenue Code Section 501c3 under certain conditions. In your staff report, we've identified the fact that the Planning Commission and the Council have recommended and allowed minor use permits under our use permits section, which allow a permit to go at the staff level, which is a lesser fee, and generally it will save an applicant time and it will save them money as well. The use permit at the staff level is one where it meets all of the requirements of the zone and the process can move through relatively quickly. We did include in your staff report a table that shows the boxing club that was operated by Mr. Baca, who had processed 2 CUPs recently through the city, and the costs that he had paid at the time that he submitted. Typical costs for the CUPs can range depending upon it's a time and materials basis, so depending on the time that the staff spends on it, can go from about $1,500 to $7,500. The city has recently, we've done 15 CUPs in the past 3 years and 12 MUPs. Those 6 of those applications were submitted by nonprofits. Our current master fee schedule has just recently raised the fees and the deposits that are requested, and since we are now working more on a total cost recovery, we are asking for larger deposits. At one time, we did not take a deposit for building fees and review of a CUP, but we are doing that at this point under the current master fee schedule. The issue for us is to determine which organizations could possibly be considered as being eligible for a reduced or waived fee. The criteria would be important to be established because it would be a precedent that would be set for reducing other city fees for these types of organizations. Council Member Starbuck has suggested possibly discussion of a use variance, and it's unclear exactly what that suggestion was. If it was a use variance, that would be prohibited by the city's zoning laws, or if it was a variance by the type of organization that would be applying for the variance, which we would be unable to do. So it would be difficult to come forward with any time of authority or any type of a process where we could grant a variance for that. The council does have the authority to waive or to reduce fees. Staff does not have that ability. So we would look at, for your direction, if you wanted us to proceed with looking at this concept. The fiscal impact would be to the general fund because the time that would be spent and the material spent on processing these type of permits, there would still be a cost, and that cost would then be coming from the general fund. The possibility is that the council might want to look at some sort of a grant program where funds could be established with certain criteria that organizations could apply and have either a reduced fee or the fee would be covered by the grant. So there's possibilities, and we'd be happy to look into them and follow whatever direction you'd like to give us.
Councilman Starbuck.
Why does he need a CUP? He's operating a kids' boxing gym. What's the big deal? What is he applying for? To build a gym? He's not building a gym. He's putting in a boxing ring.
Right, and depending upon the zone that he's looking at, then a conditional use permit is required. And the two previous ones.
What zone would be required then, where he wouldn't need a CUP?
The two that he has come forward with previously, he has needed them. So we would have to look at his individual request as to where he wanted to be.
How would you zone a boxing gym? That, I guess, would be the more direct question then. He wants to go into an empty space.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to put up a ring and probably some small boxing accessories around it.
Right, which is
There's no
what he's
zoning.
done
This
previously.
is a boxing zoned area, so does he have to have a CUP to go into an empty space? Obviously, you know, he could do it in his garage if he wanted.
The issue becomes a safety issue where we have to make sure that the building where he is converting it to an assembly use, that all of the requirements of the building code and are met, that he has, where there's an issue with parking. This is one of the reasons why the previous conditional use permits needed to go to the Planning Commission. He did not meet the parking requirement, and under a CUP, we were able to allow him to go in without the required
Now,
parking.
how do we determine a parking requirement for a boxing gym for kids?
There's, we have requirements for community organizations where you're bringing in generally where there's children, community events where there's children, because you do have staff that's involved and you do have people that are dropping children off.
Let me ask another question then. If he was to limit it to 7 kids at a time, would he be exempt from that?
No, that wouldn't exempt him from that type of a
So he could
permit.
have however many kids then he wanted if he filed for the CUP and met the parking then?
There was no, he would only be limited by the occupancy that the fire and building department put on the building, the total number of occupants that were allowed.
Any other questions for Ms. Breeze? So if I read your staff report right, anything we do for one individual, we do for all individuals.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, any other questions for Ms. Breeze? Okay, we'll open this up to
I
the
have a
public.
question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Vega.
Lucille, previously, we did have a fee waiver for the 501c3s, is that correct? Or did we ever have a fee waiver prior to our last budget?
Not that I'm aware
There
of.
was never anything where you guys, but you guys did have, did you guys not have the authority to reduce the fees somehow at all, or
Staff-
did you ever have that?
No, we're
Never
not.
did, okay.
We operate under the adopted fee schedule that
So this is
council-
brand new? This is brand new, that's never been implemented, or any discounts ever been given by the city
we
for
don't
any
issue.
nonprofit group? Okay,
Mm-mm.
okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll open this up to the public.
Mayor, City Council, Nicholas Gonzalez, resident. I had a brief conversation with one of the parents who have children attending, and I asked, do you have a lot of kids that attend? And this goes back to the statement by Mrs. Breeze on occupancy. My understanding of the California Building Code is under A use, it's a very intense use and there's a lot more requirements, but if you have fewer than 50 people in attendance, then there's a default drop back to a B use, which is a lesser stringent. I think maybe somebody can get together with this particular nonprofit and maybe handhold them and guide them through the different uses and the impacts that they have. Maybe that's the solution. Because my understanding is at any given time, he doesn't have more than 50 people in attendance at any of the functions. So that would result in a lesser than A use, I believe, and which would reduce the requirements significantly. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Ms. Breeze, could you address that one real quick? Do you know, is he an A, is he a B?
Those are building code requirements, and that's not my area of expertise.
Okay.
The Development Review Board, when they review any projects that come in, that we have members of each department, and each department then puts the conditions on a project so that we cover all of the issues that are necessary.
Okay. Mr. Pannoni?
If I may, just to add to what Ms. Bree said, there's two different issues here. There's the building code requirement and the zoning requirement. It's the zoning code that requires the CUP, and depending upon where the facility, the boxing facility, or any other facility is going to go, that determines on whether or not there needs a CUP. If you use a CUP, it actually provides more flexibility to the city to be able to allow certain things that otherwise may not be allowed. But the building code issue is a different issue, and 50 or less isn't an A occupancy. It's a much less intense occupancy, so you don't have to have certain kinds of structured elements and that kind of thing.
Okay. Okay. Councilmember Mosby.
What zoning allows for a recreation facility like he's asking for? What would be the best zoning for him to go without needing a CUP?
Without getting a CUP,
Yeah.
he may be able to go into the PCD, which is, allows for a community center.
Okay. So,
But-
do you know of anything available around? We don't have too much PCD available, do we?
No.
Okay, anyone else from the council? Okay, I don't know what we're gonna do with this thing. It's very, very unfortunate because this is a wonderful gentleman who offers a great service to our community. Taking kids off the street, giving them something to do for a couple hours in the evening. And yet, it's a lot of money for him. I think he pretty much floats the entire operation on his back. I think he collects a little bit, but he floats a lot of it. Any recommendations, any motions from the council? Councilmember Mosby.
You know, the last sentence that's in here, you know, the council may wish to direct staff to consider exploring a type of grant funding to be available to organizations that meet specific criteria. Is there grant funding available for this type of situation, or is this something that CDBG money could come into, or you could potentially apply for, or is there, or do we have something else out there besides a GoFundMe site, which probably is not a bad idea for this gentleman to get started on?
I mean, there's the Economic Development Loan Program, but that's not a grant funding situation. CDBG would have to be, you know, certain criteria for eligibility, and that creates a whole nother set of restrictions and requirements. So we could explore it further. There may be other grants besides the one that the city's currently using that just might be something we could let him know about and have him pursue.
Okay, maybe somebody could announce so that the people out there in TV land could reach out to him and help him with a GoFundMe site or whatever it might be. I know the people of Lompoc are very generous, and we could try to get this gentleman some resources real fast.
And I think you just did that.
I didn't mention his name. That's up to you.
It's Roy Baca, Baca Boxing. If anyone wants the number, contact me. What a great cause. So, Councilmember Starbuck.
You know, possibly a suggestion here. You know, our Parks and Recreation people put together a very large program. Maybe, and we do have instructors come to these programs and teach cooking, line dancing, everything else going on. Possibly we could incorporate Mr. Baca into doing a boxing program for the city.
It's not a bad idea. Okay, so from what I'm gathering, we'd like to direct staff to go out and look for some options, possible options. Is that what we're saying?
I think absolutely, Mayor, because you cannot exempt one and not everybody else.
Correct.
I couldn't tell you how many planning commission meetings I've been to where it's been a church, where it's been a small business, where it's been something, and if you do it for one and you make a special exemption, you've opened a floodgate, and unfortunately, in the case of Mr. Baca here, it's just something that we can't do. It's just not the right thing.
Okay, so I think, unfortunately, we're directing staff to go look for something for us. Grants, Possibly, I think possibly getting him involved with the Parks and Recreation Commission, possibly doing something like that, so. Anyway, come back to us with something. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I just wanted to clarify, could we go ahead and just get with Mr. Baca on that and CC you? It doesn't need to come back to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
That'd be great. Okay. Ms. Breeze, thank you for the time you put into it. It's not the answer I wanted, but thank you anyway. Okay, we're going on to item number 11, discussion of city ordinance number 1597, parentheses 13, aggressive solicitation. Okay, so.
Yeah, I was just going to point out that Councilmember Vega made the request and got a second and third to bring this ordinance back for discussion. So a copy of the ordinance was included in the package.
Okay. So, Councilmember Vega, your concerns on it?
Basically, I wanted the public to be aware of the reasons and the guidelines that we have, and maybe city attorney can help us, and possibly the chief of police could ask us in how we take a look at aggressive solicitation and I guess, I've even had people come up to me, and obviously there's rights for people to plant themselves on city property and work it every day, okay? So basically, are our hands tied? I'd like a better explanation for the public's on how we handled it. The guidelines, I've looked up other ordinances from different cities, and I see, that they have to be a certain, 20 feet away or 25 feet away. I mean, who made that designation on how far away we expect these people to be away from an ATM or a bus stop? And is there anything we can do to even make it safer for the public that live in Lompoc? We do have an epidemic. Obviously, we have just gone through the shopping cart thing, which is basically kind of related of such. It is an eyesore. It is in our business district. We already have people that are having the carts taken by people and utilized for other reasons. So I just like a little more of a clarification. I looked at Santa Maria's ordinance. It looks like it's basically pretty much the same. We probably have done a really good job at this, but I'd like all of us to know, is there anything else that we can do without infringing on someone's rights? And how do the police department looks at this?
When this ordinance was brought to you back in 2013, it was brought to you because of a concern by the community on people being uncomfortable with people soliciting very aggressively. And so we did a lot of analysis on the U.S. Supreme Court decisions that actually protect solicitation because the Supreme Court considers it a First Amendment right. So we had to draft the ordinance so that we weren't actually regulating what people are saying or what they're asking money for, but rather how they're acting in doing it, which is why we have a definition of aggressive solicitation. The city does have authority to regulate aggressive solicitation, and so it's defined in the code, and very specifically, and the code actually does have 20 feet. You can't aggressively solicit within 20 feet of an ATM, or 20 feet of an entrance or an exit to an ATM. So there are different distances that someone has to, if they're going to be aggressive. However, if someone's just calmly asking someone for a donation or for money, that isn't necessarily aggressive just because they're making that request. As to how the police department gets involved when it's aggressive, I'll leave that to the police chief.
Councilman Vega, through the mayor, we have gotten a handful of calls on aggressive panhandling. I gotta be honest with you, when we get there, the caller's gone. So we have to see it happen. It's a misdemeanor. We can't arrest people unless we see it happen. We'd have to have them say, hey, they accosted me and I want to file charges. And most people don't want to do that. They just don't want to be bothered. Most of the calls we're getting right now are the homeless fighting over a spot to panhandle. And we get a lot of calls for service for that. I have a suggestion. I think that, C3H coordinates the response to the homeless, and they agree, and I agree that, giving spare change isn't helping because it allows individuals an opportunity to not seek services because they're providing for themselves. And it sounds heartless, but we are trying to coordinate our efforts to get service for folks, and they are resistant. So I don't have an answer. I just know that we get a lot of calls in front of McDonald's and a couple other places in town, and mostly it's antagonistic relationships with people that are trying to get that spot first, and actually some citizens in town that feel it their duty to get out and yell at them, so we get calls for that too. So it's a tough problem. It's a tough problem. So.
Chief, it's not about, we all have a heart, but I'm just wondering, if there's a message. I've spoken to several business owners, and they say their only recourse, especially if they got the big box stores that do this, okay, and they can afford, they get the traffic anyway, but if it was a mom and pop, and they go out there and they ask them to leave, obviously, we've had businesses we saw over here. Our business was even one of them that shut down previously with a restaurant. But if it was you that owned a restaurant there and you can't get rid of these people, I've actually, had to call you guys before when we were in business, and so a unit did come and see, because some of these people were, they weren't as calm. They weren't calm. They had other issues. Okay, so basically they'll tell you where to go and stuff. It's kind of a they're not the nicest people, some of them, okay? But some of them are in need. So basically, what would we do if we're trying to promote business? I'm just asking these questions, what is our recourse and what would our message be to business owners that confront this? That's basically, we went through this transparency thing. We're going to be going through that very soon. I think this is a good addition to that coming up in the
I think it's important as a business owner to take care of your shop, and confronting somebody would be in your purview. And if their behavior is inappropriate, that's where we come in. And what I tell my police officers, you are to address the bad behavior, but homelessness and mentally ill is not a crime. And so we drive by 90% of the time, but I would say on any given day, 20 to 40% of our calls are homeless and mentally ill who are having crisis or are acting up. So we'll come when people call us.
The message that I received from other business owners is they've gone out and asked these people, that's the only recourse they have, is to ask them to politely leave. They don't have to leave, obviously, but after a while it's redundant and they give up. That's the reason I wanted to go through this again. On behalf of the businesses that are here in town, right now, yes, it's only McDonald's or it's maybe a couple of bus stops, and it's not about not having a heart, it's about how to promote someone to invest in Lompoc, and for us to be able to, we wanted to be we talk a lot about Old Town, but we should be able to walk around the whole town. Does that make sense? As far as pedestrian, you and your wife, everybody should be able to go out there and feel some element of safety when we're around that element. So.
Well, cleaning out my office the other day, I found a whole box of posters that say smart change, not spare change, and it has all of the social service providers' logos on the bottom of it. So before my time, somebody got together and decided to have a conversation about this. And I think maybe it's time to remind ourselves of that.
That's probably an excellent idea. I would be more of an advocate instead of having someone arrested with no means and already having a hard time. I would love to, if someone would be out there, would provide information for them. Hey, guess what? We're not going to give you money. Why promote? Okay? But there's probably through the churches, through everything, if they indeed were hungry or something, you wouldn't want them to go hungry. But from what we've been told, there's someone 7 days a week, someplace that they could go and eat. Maybe they just, maybe that's not what they're there for, but that would be the direction that maybe the business owners could take.
Well, we have a perfect situation. We have a very thoughtful and very generous town. We have social services providers. We have churches that provide 7 days a week. We also have a phenomenal judge that just moved here, Judge Flores, and he and I have already had a conversation. And he's opened a vet court, and he's opened a homeless court as well, so that if there is bad behavior, we can bring them before him, and he'll mandate services, because that's the hardest part, is the resistance to services is the problem. And it's easy to resist when you have money in your pocket.
And you know, Chief, the proximity to McDonald's that we're using as an example, I mean, it's, the high school's right there, you know. Why do we even tolerate that these kids have to even go by that? It's part of life. Is this one of the life's lessons in Lompoc that, guess what? Can't do anything about it. You want to go to McDonald's, you don't have a car, but we have to put up with that, okay? And this is just about being in business and safety, you know. We've had incidents in Lompoc, as you're well aware of, that, you know, there are some people that are very aggressive out there.
Right.
So basically, along with this ordinance, which says aggressive solicitation, it could turn into something else. But why do we have to tolerate some of that, I guess, is my question. So in such close proximity to our schools.
Yeah,
Like the high school. The high school there is pretty close to McDonald's. These kids, they walk from high school to go get lunch. You know, maybe they're used to it. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, and these, they quote this ordinance to us when we do talk to them. There's a huge sidewalk there. They're not impeding the sidewalk. They know, they're pretty sharp. So.
I got you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Just attaching onto the conversation that Councilmember Vega and Chief Walsh just had, I did receive today the updated information of exactly what community resources are available, and I bring that up because I do believe in the concept, as the chief pointed out, about change, smart change, not spare change, because the issue is that people don't need to donate to give money to somebody sitting like at McDonald's, for instance, or wherever, for people to be able to eat. We have prepared meals available 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, at churches, and we have the exact locations and addresses for each one and telephone contact numbers. We have food pantries that are available so that for the 7th day, they'd have groceries available. We have 3 different static food pantries and 2 mobile food pantries that are available, as well as a mobile farmers market. And there are other community resources we have that bring social services, housing help, financial help, mental health, and other counseling services. So I'm going to work with our community relations manager to figure out how we can best push this information out. I think it's worthwhile to repurpose the message on that there are resources available out there.
If I could. Go ahead. Thank you. Patrick, that would be excellent. I think that's the direction I'd like to see us go in as far as businesses, give them another resource besides please asking them to leave, and maybe there's a way that we can get this information to these businesses so they can post it and discourage people from giving them money. Well, basically, we don't want to see anybody hungry. We don't want to see anybody without a roof over their head, but some of these people have made these choices, and the least we could do is at least redirect them to where they could get a meal and hopefully help them of sorts.
Councilmember Mosby, does C3H still have those parking meters that they had required?
I'm not sure who ended up with them. I know there was a discussion, and a couple of the groups were arguing of which direction it was going to go, and I'm not sure how it ended up exactly with the meters. It kind of faded away about a year ago, but I'll inquire.
Okay, so
Mr. Mayor, I could answer that question.
Okay, good. Okay. Let's explain what the parking meters were first. There were meters that. Oh yeah, you want to do it? You know.
Mr. Mayor, Captain Deming, before he retired, was the one that was organizing that. And when we went to pick them up, it was they want to charge us for them, and that's not something we had in our budget. I have talked to other cities that have done that, and you put a meter up, and it's for the homeless, like Good Sam and organizations that work with the homeless. The problem is they get jammed with other debris so that people can't put their quarters in there. So I don't know what the fix to that is. I know a service group I talked to wants to put like boxes around town so you put your change in there, like that would hang on the wall next to McDonald's. So there'd be a sign saying, you know, smart change is not spare change, and this money goes to help the homeless in these ways. And you put your money there instead of, you know, 20 feet over to giving it to somebody. So the parking meters fell through for us anyways.
Okay, thank you. Okay, public comment.
Council members, Mayor, for those of John Lynn, Lompoc resident, for those of you who have been on the council, you'll recall that when we passed the aggressive panhandling ordinance, the other half of it were those posters that the chief just found. And there was actually a workshop at the League of Cities a long time ago that I attended, and it basically said it's a two-part solution or a three-part solution. You have to have alternatives available to help the homeless, but you have to have an enforcement program with an ordinance, which we passed based on a model from the League of Cities, and you have to have this spare change for change as a component of it, or you only have half of it and you will never succeed. So I'm excited to hear that the chief found the posters that are long lost, and they were in every store in Lompoc at one point. And having collection boxes would be good. The parking meters were the discussion way back when, but I guess that didn't work out. So hopefully we will, as a city, be able to carry forward with the other half of the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Okay, we'll close public comment. Let's see, there was just discussion, no action required. Written communication.
Nothing more than you've already received on the dais and has been made available to the public and will be on the website.
Okay. Oral communication, this is your last opportunity to speak to us for up to 2 minutes on any item you so choose. Seeing no one rise, we're going to close oral communication, bring it back to council requests, comments, and meeting reports. We'll start with Councilmember Vega.
Nothing really to report on meetings, but I would like to make a comment. If anyone's ever gone, or if they've gone by recently to see Thompson Park and see what those volunteers have done to those fields, I mean, it looks like they're doing a beautiful job. And gosh, if all our parks looked like that, we would be on the map somewhere. But the goal here to see all that volunteerism for that softball park, I mean, it's looking beautiful. You know, there's no grass there yet, but they have new dirt and everything, so it looks nice. So I wanted to give them a shout out.
Councilmember Humdahl.
Yeah, following along with that, seen the same thing. It's excellent what they're doing out there for that park. It'd be nice if we can get it done for Ryan Park also. I did go to the dog show this weekend. There was quite a turnout. They had about 900 dogs, or more or less. But one of the big problems is fighting the gophers at Ryan Park. So hopefully someday we'll be able to get that one fixed back up too. But people were excited. They enjoyed the show. Yesterday I went to yesterday airport commission meeting. They did an excellent job on what they looked at as the EIR on the motor sports park. They'll be bringing that presentation to the city once they get it all done, but they really were doing an excellent job on it. And one other. Oh, I wish staff would come back in. And the one comment we had earlier on tonight is about the 18-foot setback. Just why do we need an 18-foot setback on that corner? And I've never heard a reasoning for it, but that goes into somebody's yard. Most setbacks are from the curb and are not 18 feet. And I'd like to know why that can't be changed. So other than that, it's about that.
If you're making that a council request, you'll need a second and a third. So.
I don't want to steal any of Dwayne's thunder, but that was going to be right down what I was going to ask about here. somebody would go look at this physically, they would see how ridiculous it is. I mean, give Mr. Whitmore the property. It's not city's property, nor will the city ever need that property. He'll pay the title, I'm sure, just to have the city gone.
Yeah,
And I have no other reports, and that was a second.
Okay. I got a third on that.
I'll give you
I'm
4.
not quite sure, but if we bring it about specifically, the 18-foot specifically to this gentleman here and others in town, is that what you're saying?
City Manager, do you have enough information on what we want?
Almost.
Okay.
So I know what the topic is, but, and I'm not sure if I'm going to find out the reason why that existed from 100 and whatever years ago. So, you know, because I've heard stories that, well, that's how much room the cart needed, being drawn by 2 horses to make the turn or whatever. So I'm not sure I'm going to find the origin, but what you're, I guess what you'd be looking to accomplish is bring that portion of the code section, maybe some mapping of where it applies, and for your consideration and consideration of possibly changing and reducing those setbacks, I guess.
That's
Am I reading that correctly?
I'll throw in here, there's been several people that have built fences, put up a hedge, various improvements to their property, and then all of a sudden, it's on the city's property, it's on the city's easement. Well, these people water it, they mow it, they trim it, they do everything else, but they're in violation. A guy put up a fence, was cited for a fence. Well, if he went to the city's easement, the kids would have had a 4-foot front yard. It's way overkill on a lot of properties. I mean, case by case, you could look at some of them. Mr. Whitmore's property, when you look at it, you say, wow. And then there was also, I hate to use the word surveying errors in that area, but they were 6-inch off, 6, 12, 18, 24. It went right up to the end of the block where Mr. Whitmore is. Now suddenly, his neighbor's hanging over his property. It's a mess.
That's why I wanted staff to look at.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
what we wanted is
Yeah.
whatever code/ordinance is dealing with those setbacks, bring that forward for some discussion, possible action, including
Just to be clear,
reductions.
Yes.
It's not setback, it's the city actually has an easement that's a lot bigger than folks are
Everybody
thinking it needs to be. So it's more than a setback. It's
So
actually
is it
public
both
right-
the
it's actually
easement
public
issue?
right-of-way.
Is it both the easement issue and the setback issue then?
Well, in his case, it's turned into a setback issue because of the size of the easement.
Because the setback is calculated from the back of the easement.
Got it.
If you were to look at his case, we're gonna have to move his house too.
Let's do it.
See what Lonnie wants to.
Okay.
I just had one other one, is that, I sit on Housing Trust Fund and the Workforce Housing Program, City of Lompoc Home Buyer Assistance Program. They've got it put together, and they'll be having meetings starting the 29th and 30th of this month, and it'll be noticed, so that's for the Home Buyers Assistance Program.
Okay. And Councilman Starbuck, you said you do not have anything? Councilman Mosby?
Yeah, I'll just be real quick. I just wanted some clarification from the meeting we had last time here, and there were some confusions about a council request that I'd made and had been documented incorrectly as a date in the Lompoc record, and I just made copies of the minutes to make it simple and easy for the November 17th meeting, which I actually had made it. So you guys want copy, there's a copy for the city manager, one for the clerk as well, which I know you already have them, but. And another item that I wanted to bring forward is I did make a council request on October 20th, and Mr. City Manager, you said you were going back as far as a year and a half on there, but just to bring this back forward so less confusion. And there was I made 3 council requests that night, and one of them came back that staff was going to give us updates for revisions and changes to the Lompoc Municipal Code. So just as a reminder, I'll pass these back as well. And that was October 20th of last year as well.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. I have, let's see, three things. One, on the 20th, I read a proclamation for Man and Woman of the Year at the Chamber of Commerce event. On the 26th through the 28th, I was at a NCPA meeting in Murphy's. And on the 30th, I attended and spoke at the funeral for former Mayor, Councilmember Joe Valencia. And that is my report. Oh, and the, I'm sorry, the NCPA report, there was city money involved. I drove my vehicle, they paid mileage, and they did pay for my motel room. That is it.
I have a question, Bob,
Sure.
if I could, okay? Along with your council request to review the setbacks and easements, and we're using Mr. Whitmore as an example here, he's undergoing something right now that he's been asked to remove something or remove, okay? Is there anything involved there that we're not going to get involved with that, or is this for part of this? Are we asking for a delay on anything here so that we can see if there's another way to resolve this as part of the request? I mean, I'm asking. Mr. Whitmore's here. Obviously, he's concerned with what he's been asked to do, okay? It's a code enforcement issue.
No,
So-
I think that a stay of execution until the city manager has a chance to evaluate it would definitely, fit with, why tear it down and then change the city's easement.
I mean, Mr. Whitmore has been very decent, very pointed on what he needs, and I think it's our duty to try and at least assist on something like this, especially when there is a valid issue.
No, absolutely, and this is the second time that it's come up.
So the question is that something that we can make happen here, or a little bit of a stay on the process with Mr. Whitmore until we actually have this discussion on his code enforcement issue?
Yeah, and the answer is, I don't know. I'm willing to follow whatever you have to do. Just to clarify some issues, apparently Mr. Whitmore was believing, and I have no reason to not believe his statements of his attempts to contact me. I wasn't aware of those until the last statement that he, when he arrived last meeting, and I heard that he had met with, I think he reported that he did meet with, called Ms. Gallivan. I was out of the office, and he was probably seeking to talk to me, and she usually will step in and handle those calls, and that was the only contact I was aware of. Following up to that, I was informed that he had an issue that involved where the best immediate resolution we could give would be to advise him on how to go about seeking a variance. You request those with the Planning Commission, and if you're successful there, great, and if not, then it would go before this body. I did understand he wanted to meet with me, and my message back would be, I'd be happy to meet with him. I'm not empowered to grant any variance, and so not wanting to frustrate his attempts to get resolution to his issue, I said, please communicate to him, what his options are and what that path was. And if he still wants to meet with me, certainly can. It's just that it would be me telling him the same information, because you haven't empowered me to grant those variances. Those go with Planning Commission, then ultimately with you, the council. So I'm just saying, I don't have enough information. If it's as simple as that we're confining it to these setback and easement issues, then yeah, we can put a halt on whatever code enforcement process we're doing, I guess, at the time, until we have a chance to vet that out, if indeed that's the issue. But I've got to plead some level of lack of knowledge as to what his specific terms are.
So can we add that, or have we been clear about that?
If you're making that as a request that we give him this stay, I'll second your.
Yes, I'd like to do that, but I want to make sure I'm not stepping on someone here because it was somebody else's motion.
No, I mean, I'll absolutely third it and include it. I mean, I thought it was a given that if we're going to look at
Just so that we don't violate the Brown Act, my suggestion is staff always make sure that they aren't going to enforce something if after something you do, better to be unenforced. So I think you can feel comfortable that the code enforcement is not going to go forward if the issue that's concerned here is only the setback easement issue.
Okay, now is that, but that also involves whatever the code enforcement issue was. Is that correct also, Joe? I hear the setback and the easement.
If the code enforcement issue that is currently involved is a setback easement issue for Mr. Whitmore, then yes, that's going to be put in abeyance right now.
Thank you, sir. Okay, appreciate it.
Not because you told me to, because that only makes sense.
Thank you.
City Manager?
Right, and so I don't know, is it okay to ask Mr. Whitmore, is it your understanding that that's the limit of the issues we're talking about, or do we have other code enforcement action pending? I'm just unfamiliar with your particular case.
I'm unfamiliar with my case too,
Yeah.
because of the property lines that have changed, construction that's taken place with developments put in. I don't have room for a hot tub heater now that's next to a chain link fence because it's too close. Well, it wasn't too close when it was put in because the property line was different. And it's a zero clearance heater that I could put inside a building.
Yeah.
You know, and so there are things like that. I've got a shed, changing room, storage room, playhouse thing on my deck.
From what you're saying, it sounds like it all falls under this topic and will be
In
good.
the thing, same thing. That code enforcement, that 18-foot, means I got to take off 7 foot of my house to meet that requirement.
Okay,
Why?
I just wanted to make sure that the sum total of your issues, this sounds like they are.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
great, thank you.
Okay, with that, just a quick announcement, and then we'll adjourn. Just a reminder that next Tuesday, August 9th, at 6:30 p.m., we have a special council meeting to discuss transparency. With that, this Lompoc City Council meeting is adjourned to a regular meeting of 6:30 p.m. on August 16th. Thank you for attending.